Among these buildings, immortal energy filled the air, constantly rising. Immediately after, figures slowly emerged from the immortal mist. Every single one of them radiated overwhelming immortal aura. Some rode clouds, bearing the air of lofty immortals. Some were fully enlightened, graceful as phoenixes and dragons. Others summoned wind and rain, returning to their primal origin. The immortals descended, and the heavens trembled. At that very moment, a blade fell from the sky. Its saber intent was one of absolute annihilation, capable of destroying everything. In that instant, countless buildings of the heavenly court collapsed. Towers and jade palaces turned into ruins in the blink of an eye. The immortals were terrified. At this moment, they were nothing more than souls beneath the blade. Lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Fish laid out on a chopping board. The blade descended from the firmament. The 18 demonic armors looked up. At that moment, the heavenly court was destroyed, and the immortals were slain. And the 18 demonic armors, without anyone noticing, had already dissipated into nothingness. They vanished together with the heavenly court in the sky. Heaven and earth were left empty, deathly silent, as if nothing had ever appeared. Only Su Zimo remained, with Shadow Tyrant in his hand trembling joyfully. This was the slay myriad immortals. This strike was a killing blow, an invincible strike. Whether god or demon, there was nothing this blade could not cut down. With the 18 demonic guardians gone, Su Zimo walked to the entrance of the sovereign palace and found the gates tightly shut. He placed both hands on either side of the door and pushed forward with force. With a loud boom, the long-sealed gates slowly opened. Su Zimo looked inside and saw that everything was shrouded in mist. Without entering, it was impossible to see anything. After thinking for a moment, he still chose to step inside. The instant he crossed the threshold, all the mist vanished. The gate behind him also closed completely. Su Zimo scanned his surroundings. This appeared to be a great hall. In front of him were dozens of seats, arranged much like a classroom. At the very front stood a lectern. Beside it hung a plaque. The 3 characters Hall of Transmission were written upon it, the strokes flowing like dragons and serpents, bold and unrestrained, clearly the work of a master calligrapher. Hall of Transmission? One of the 3 trials of the human sovereign palace.
Su Zimo Mumut.
He took out the map. Passing through the gate of the Hall of Transmission should lead to the Human Sovereign Academy. Outside, however, was the Path of Righteousness Bridge. The Path of Righteousness Bridge, the bridge of the heart, only those who truly comprehend their own heart could cross it. Su Zimo put the map away and prepared to leave. But in an instant, a loud buzzing echoed as countless forces roared into motion. A powerful energy burst out from all around. It directly formed a transparent barrier, enclosing the Hall of Transmission. A teacher transmits the Tao, teaches knowledge, and resolves doubts. Man is not born with understanding. Who is without confusion? If one has doubts and does not follow a teacher, those doubts will never be resolved. One line after another of maxims about the teacher's path rang out. These words condensed into solid essays, floating in the air. Su Zimo frowned slightly, wanting to see what trick was being played. Suddenly, a majestic voice echoed through the hall. The first trial, 30 participants. Only those of upright conduct shall be chosen. When all 30 are present, the examination shall begin. As the words fell, a beam of light descended directly onto Su Zimo's head. However, the other 29 seats were empty. Thus, the examination did not begin. That mysterious power continued to envelop the entire Hall of Transmission. Su Zimo could not leave. In other words, he was trapped at the first trial. Su Zimo recognized the voice clearly. It belonged to the old man within the jade token. It should be the human sovereign himself. He felt somewhat speechless. He hadn't expected the examination to have a minimum participant requirement. He was alone, and they simply refused to let him take the test. Su Zimo's spirit energy surged as he attempted to break the barrier by force, to see if he could enter the second trial. With a thunderous boom, The creation-devouring Godfinger struck the barrier. There was no reaction at all. Not even a ripple appeared. Su Zimo knew then that breaking through by brute force was almost impossible. Not just for him, even an infinite Tao cultivator would be unable to do it. The human sovereign himself was an extremely powerful existence. This barrier had been laid by him and likely incorporated the strength of many of his infinite Tao disciples. It would be extraordinarily difficult to break. Su Zimo walked to the entrance gate and shouted, "If I don't take the exam, may I leave?" The hall of transmission fell silent for a moment. Then a single word echoed out, "Yes." Instantly, the barrier opened, and the exit gate swung open. Su Zimo's heart tightened. He had only said that as a test. It seemed there truly was an existence within the human sovereign palace controlling everything related to the trials. Otherwise, it wouldn't respond so intelligently. Su Zimo did not linger and left the human sovereign palace directly. Since the trial could not yet be taken, he would wait until the 5 major powers arrived together. Su Zimo was confident. With the Jade token in his possession, there was actually no need to fight for anything. As long as the Jade token returned to its place, he would be able to control the entire human sovereign palace. After leaving the inheritance grounds, Su Zimo arrived at Mist City. Based on the timing, the 5 major powers should arrive by tomorrow. There was no need to wait long. Su Zimo originally planned to rent a room at an inn. Unfortunately, the entire Mist City had no vacant rooms. With the emergence of the human sovereign palace, countless people had gathered here. And Mist City was the closest city to the human sovereign palace. Being overcrowded was to be expected. "What are you trying to do? Don't go too far." A loud shout suddenly rang out from the side of the street. The crowd was drawn by the sound and quickly looked over. On the wide street, 3 burly men were surrounding 2 people. One old, one young. The old man seemed to be some kind of servant. As for the youth, his appearance was strikingly exotic, even somewhat androgynous. It was hard to tell whether he was male or female. "Old man, you stepped on my shoe and think you can just walk away?" One of the burly men said coldly. The 3 men were all powerfully built, like towering brown bears. They had shaved heads and looked fierce and menacing. The only difference was their clothing. Black, white, and red. All wore sleeveless vests, exposing their bulging muscles. "Gentlemen, I won't argue with you over this matter. Please leave quickly," the old man said hurriedly. "Old bastard, are you stupid?" The burly man sneered. "You stepped on us, and now you're saying you won't argue with us? It seems we've been too gentle with you. If you want to live, then leave immediately. The farther, the better," the old man said anxiously, even beginning to push the 3 men away. The man in the middle grew angry and swung his arm, sending the old man flying. "Damn it, old fool, you're courting death." The old man fell to the ground, looking weak and injured. Only then did the youth, who had remained silent the entire time, slowly crouch down. He moved to the old man's side and smiled. "Xiao Lu, you see? Reason is useless. What this world needs is slaughter. Blood. Corpses." The youth grew more and more unhinged as he spoke. As the youth's expression grew more and more deranged, his voice turned hysterical, and his smile became terrifying. "The world needs slaughter. The world needs slaughter. This brat's been scared out of his mind." One of the burly men sneered. "Hurry up and pay compensation, or we'll sell this kid to the pleasure houses. He looks delicate and tender. People with certain tastes would like him." The burly men grinned viciously. One of them stepped forward and grabbed the youth's shoulder with his large hand. In the next instant, the man's expression changed abruptly. With a loud PFF, a mouthful of blood sprayed from his lips. His body collapsed to the ground, and in the blink of an eye, he had turned into a pile of white bones. "Be big brother." The other 2 men were stunned with fear. "Kid, what did you do?" The youth slowly stood up and smiled. "Don't worry. You'll be going down to accompany him very soon." Blood began to flow from the youth's body. The blood was thick and viscous, and a strong, bloody stench spread in all directions, drifting throughout the city. As more and more blood poured out, it gradually condensed into a humanoid shape made entirely of blood. The blood figure roared and lunged straight toward the two burly men. "Watch out!" The two tried to dodge, but it was already too late. The blood figure pounced and completely engulfed them. Before long, accompanied by their struggling cries, their flesh was devoured, and they too were reduced to bare white skeletons. The youth's laughter grew louder and louder. "Stop!" The old man below struggled to his feet and cried out. "Xiao Lu, I've been holding back." The youth shook his head and laughed. "I don't want to kill people, but they forced me to. Once the killing starts, I can't control myself anymore. It feels too good." As he spoke, the blood on his body grew denser and denser. Soon, the blood flooded an entire street. Along the way, anyone who touched even a trace of it was swallowed whole. If this continued, the entire Mist City would be destroyed, and everyone would perish. Chaos erupted throughout the city. Suddenly, a sharp shout rang out from not far away. "Bold demon, the Sun Moon God sect is here. Today we suppress you." 3 figures stepped through the air. With the human sovereign palace emerging, Mist City had gathered many powerful cultivators. "It's the Sun Moon God sect," someone exclaimed. "I wonder which senior it is." The 3 who arrived through the air consisted of 2 young disciples and an elderly man. The 2 disciples were a man and a woman. One held a sun wheel, the other a moon wheel. The elder wore a loose, flowing robe that fluttered in the wind. At the center of his brow was the symbol of a blazing sun. "It's Skyfire Emperor," someone said. "Skyfire Emperor is a grand emperor. We're saved." Many people grew excited. Skyfire Emperor stood with his hands behind his back and said to the 2 disciples, "I'll give you both a chance to gain experience. Go subdue this demon." "Yes, we obey, Master," the 2 replied. They stepped into the air. The male disciple wielded the sun wheel, a curved circular disc. With a sweep of his right hand, raging flames surged like a torrent, surrounding the youth. "Burn!" The male disciple snorted coldly. But in the next moment, the blood gathered together, forming a blood shield. When the flames struck the shield, blood splashed everywhere. Yet the fire could not burn through it. As the blood scattered, the male disciple was unable to dodge in time. A single drop of blood touched him. A scream rang out. Instantly, a bloody hole was eaten into his arm, and the blood seemed to move with intent, surging into his body. Seeing this, the female disciple quickly swung her moon wheel. Powerful spirit energy erupted from it. Rumble, rumble. The power of the moon will spread like white frost, freezing the entire space in an instant. Wherever the moon will pass, a path of ice was left behind. The female disciple's face was tense, cold sweat trickling down her nose. "Frozen for 1,000 miles. Her soft shout echoed out. A massive ice dragon roared into existence. Though it was called frozen for 1,000 miles, her strength was limited, and she could only condense an ice dragon about 100 meters long. The ice dragon froze all the blood and roared as it charged toward the youth. Aside from bleeding, the youth had not moved from his spot the entire time. Now, as the ice dragon attacked, he raised his head and smiled wickedly. With a light breath from his mouth, a blood dragon instantly formed. The blood dragon opened its gaping maw, slammed the ice dragon to the ground with its claws, and swallowed it whole in a single bite. Seeing this, both the male and female disciples turned pale. "Demonic creature, you dare act so arrogantly." Skyfire Emperor could no longer sit still. He stepped into the air, grabbed one disciple in each hand, and fled toward the distance at full speed. "You think you can leave so easily after coming here?" the youth said with a sinister grin. "I can feel it. You're pretty strong. Killing you should feel even better." As his words fell, all the blood around them erupted into motion. The blood dragon roared forward. The elder snorted coldly and stamped his right foot. A tremendous force annihilated the blood dragon. The youth did not care. The sea of blood boiled and instantly condensed into countless new blood dragons, seemingly endless. The blood dragons soared into the sky, surrounding the entire Mist City. Dragon roars echoed through heaven and earth. At this sight, even the elder's expression changed. He tried to flee with his disciples, but the blood dragons seemed to have locked onto him, intent on wiping him out completely. "Get lost!" the elder roared in fury. The sun mark on his brow shone brightly, blazing like a true sun. A torrent of fire swept across, destroying all the blood dragons. What the elder did not expect was that after the blood dragons were destroyed, they turned into countless tiny blood droplets. They floated through the air, impossible to avoid. Even with the elder's powerful cultivation and profound movement techniques, several blood droplets still touched him. His will was extraordinary. Enduring the pain, his face filled with shock as he exclaimed, "You are the blood lotus seed?" After saying this, the elder dared not remain any longer. He fled in disgrace with the two disciples. The blood lotus seed. Has this monster finally emerged after all? A sigh sounded beside Su Zimo. During the battle, Su Zimo had remained where he was, merely watching. Hearing the sigh, he turned to look. A young novice monk had approached. The novice was not tall, only about 1.6 meters. His shaved head bore 8 burn marks. He wore a gray monk's robe. His expression was youthful, yet carried a sense of worry for the world. "Amitba, this humble monk greets the benefactor." The novice stepped forward and bowed to Su Zimo. "Little monk, do we know each other?" Su Zimo asked. Hearing Su Zimo's words, the young monk gently shook his head. "I have never met the benefactor before." "Then why greet me?" Su Zimo asked. There were clearly so many people here. The young monk had obviously come with a purpose. The novice monk smiled and explained, "Benefactor, please don't misunderstand. This humble monk has cultivated at the primordial demon gate since childhood. By the grace of my patriarch opening his Dharma eye, I can see gods and Buddhas above, and ghosts and demons below. Today in Mist City, only the benefactor appears as a mass of fog. Though I cannot see through you, I know you are no ordinary person, so I came to make your acquaintance." "You're pretty honest for a little monk," Su Zimo said with a light chuckle. "My master taught that if you want others to open their hearts, you must first open your own," the novice replied. "You've learned your principles well," Su Zimo said. "But does the primordial demon gate even accept monks? It's not a Buddhist temple. If one has seen through worldly dust, one can be a novice monk anywhere," the young monk replied. "There's no difference between a demon sect and a monastery." He performed a Buddhist salute and smiled. "If there must be a distinction, benefactor may simply call me a demon monk." As his words fell, dense demonic aura surged around him. At some point, a string of demonic beads appeared around his neck, each bead refined from skulls. They gave off an extremely sinister feeling. The novice's eyes also became deep and pitch black.
Su Zimo smiled slyly.
"You came looking for me for something, didn't you? Isn't the benefactor curious about the origin of this blood lotus seed?" the young monk asked. At this moment, Mist City had already turned into a sea of blood. Countless residents were fleeing toward the outskirts of the city. Mist City's lord, Hong Tianxiong, led the soldiers in a final evacuation. The sea of blood was powerful, but it was actually afraid of fire. However, it had already grown to a certain level, and ordinary flames could no longer harm it. To stop the spread of the blood sea, Hong Tianxiong directly set fire to the buildings on both sides. Towering flames burned throughout Mist City. "You too? Why aren't you fleeing?" Hong Tianxiong noticed Su Zimo and the monk. The city was chaotic and dangerous, yet the two of them stood calmly in place, chatting as if nothing were happening. Within a dozen meters around them, the sea of blood was twisted back by a powerful force and could not advance even half a step. The two ignored Hong Tianxiong entirely. Hearing the young monk's question, Su Zimo smiled and said, "This blood lotus seed. I can be curious about it, or not curious at all. If you want to talk, I'll listen. If not, I don't care to hear it. In any case, what happens to Mist City has nothing to do with me. It is connected to the human sovereign palace, the young monk said with a smile. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. The monk smiled again. The benefactor is also here for the human sovereign palace. Isn't he? What does that have to do with you?
Su Yimo counter.
Perhaps we could cooperate, each taking what we need, the young monk said. Do you think you're qualified?
Su Yimo riplit canly.
If I subdue the blood lotus seed, would I be qualified then? The young monk asked, still smiling. It's nothing more than an ant. I could destroy it with a flick of my hand, Su Zimo said indifferently. The smile on the monk's face froze for a moment. Benefactor really leaves me unsure how to respond. The monk shook his head, then proposed, Then let's compete. Whoever subdues the blood lotus seed first. You want to save Mist City? Su Zimo asked. Does a demon monk also do good deeds? I just don't want to be looked down upon by the benefactor. The monk shook his head. In the distance, seeing more and more civilians evacuate, the tension in Hong Tianxiong's heart finally eased. But now, the sea of blood churned violently all around. He was already trapped within it and could no longer escape. Come on, you damned little demon, Hong Tianxiong shouted. I've governed Mist City for hundreds of years without a single mistake, and today you ruined it all. Having cast aside all fear, Hong Tianxiong cursed loudly and charged toward the youth. With a thunderous boom, a blood dragon roared toward him. Under the violent impact, the long blade in Hong Tianxiong's hand snapped in two. As several more blood dragons came roaring in, Hong Tianxiong saw death approaching. At that moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. A Vajraam's bowl blocked the way, stopping all the blood dragons. El little monk? Hong Tianxiong looked up at the figure before him and stammered. I hate it when people call me little monk, the novice snorted. He grabbed Hong Tianxiong and hurled him out of Mist City. Only then did the monk turn around and look at the youth ahead. Boy, surrender without resistance, he said. Your blood lotus foundation isn't bad. If you restrain your killing nature and evolve into a demon lotus, you might even take another step forward. I haven't tasted a monk's flesh yet. The youth licked his lips. In the next moment, the sea of blood surged violently again. Countless dragon roars rang out. The monk shook his head. You're still unwilling to give up. A mere blood lotus, not even at the Saint Realm. Yet you dare to exterminate a city. He raised the Vajraam's bowl in his hand. In an instant, the bowl expanded to 100 times its original size. All the blood energy was blocked outside. No matter how the youth raged and how the blood energy roared, it could not break through the Vajra bowl. Everyone thinks that to destroy you, they must kill you, the monk said. But even if a blood lotus seed dies, it can regenerate. What truly matters is the blood lotus itself. Hearing this, the youth's previously calm expression turned panicked. He shouted toward the old man nearby, Shaolu, run! The monk smiled and shook his head. Accept your fate. Since I'm already here, where do you think you can run? As his words fell, the Vajraam's bowl in his hand expanded countless times, enveloping the entire Mist City. To escape, one would have to break through the Vajra bowl. Unfortunately, even when the youth had used all his strength earlier, he could not break it. Come back with me to the primordial demon gate. I will grant you fortune, the monk said with a smile. He stepped through the air, demonic aura exploding around him. In a flash, he appeared before the old man. Blood Lotus, he shouted softly. He placed a hand on the old man's head. In an instant, the old man screamed in agony. A powerful force surged downward, and the old man began to transform. His human form gradually turned into a green lotus. The surface of the lotus was azure, with profound heavenly principles rippling within it, brimming with spirit energy. It was clearly no ordinary object. The monk reached out and seized the green lotus, demonic aura surging around him as he shouted, Lotus seed, return at once. As his words fell, the green lotus erupted with a powerful devouring force, forcibly pulling the youth into the lotus. No, I don't want to go back. The youth struggled desperately. Give me more blood energy and I can break free from the lotus body. I won't accept this. The lotus seed and lotus body are originally one. The monk shook his head. Even if you break free, what then? In the end, your potential will be limited, and you'll never amount to much. In the end, no matter how fiercely the youth struggled, it was futile. His fate had already been sealed. The green lotus was his prison. Only by becoming one with it could he unleash his greatest power. The youth's body began to change. Gradually, it transformed into a blood-red lotus seed. As the lotus body suddenly devoured it, the blood-colored seed completely merged into the lotus. Lotus body and lotus seed became one, forming a complete lotus flower. Looking at the lotus, the young monk shook his head and said, "Originally a lotus of heaven and earth, yet it was tainted by blood and mutated into a lotus of slaughter. But it doesn't matter. Whether evil lotus or righteous lotus, as long as it can be used by me, it is a good lotus." As he spoke, he put the lotus away. The monk then walked up to Suzimo and smiled. "Benefactor, are my humble tricks acceptable to your eyes? You already called them humble tricks yourself. How could they be worthy of mention?"
Suzimo Rito.
The monk was momentarily speechless. Then he laughed and said, "Has anyone ever told you that talking to you can make people die of anger? This blood lotus seed escaped from the human sovereign palace." "The human sovereign palace?" Suzimo frowned slightly. "There's no harm in telling you," the monk replied. "When the human sovereign traveled the world, he didn't only transmit the Tao to the great beyond. Whenever he encountered evildoers or demonic beings, he would also suppress them. For those demons who refused to repent, the human sovereign specially constructed the demon suppression tower to imprison them. So this blood lotus seed escaped from the demon suppression tower? Suzimo immediately understood. Yes, the emergence of the human sovereign palace is a good thing. Countless people have come to fight over this great opportunity. But at the same time, it is also a bad thing, the monk said, shaking his head. The human sovereign suppressed so many demons back then. Now the human sovereign palace has no master. If demons have already escaped from the demon suppression tower, that means there are cracks in the seals. When the time comes, if the demons descend en masse, the great beyond will be thrown into chaos once again.
Ohat Suzimo Riplit Ganli. Noding.
At this moment, several figures stepped through the air from the distance. "So, carefree monk, it seems the demon has already been subdued by you." A light laugh sounded. Two groups of people appeared in the distance. One group wore Taoist robes, primarily green in color. The other wore blue robes, their auras restrained and difficult to read. After the two groups descended upon Mist City, the leaders of each were two men. They are Wang Buyu of the Heart Sword Ancient Sect and Zhang Meng of the Azure Cloud Ancient Sect. Both are outstanding figures among the younger generation of their respective sects. Carefree monk explained to Suzimo. "And you?" Suzimo asked with interest. "Are you also an outstanding figure of the primordial demon gate?" "I wouldn't dare." Carefree monk shook his head. "I'm just a minor monk wandering the mortal world." The two groups had already arrived in Mist City. Carefree monk chuckled and said, "Wang Buyu, Zhang Meng, you're both late." "Not late, not late." Zhang Meng shook his head with a smile. "On our way here, we encountered the Bloodhand Butcher in Song City to the south. He was also a demonic being, and the two of us dealt with him together." Wang Buyu, however, focused his gaze on Suzimo and smiled. "May I ask how this fellow Taoist is addressed? You seem unfamiliar." "Just a passerby." "No need to know me," Suzimo replied, shaking his head. "Now that demonic beings are emerging, the entire great beyond is being affected. What plans do your two sects have?" Carefree monk changed the subject. "Regardless of our plans, we'll first obtain the human sovereign's inheritance," Wang Buyu replied. "Then when do you plan to enter the human sovereign palace?" Carefree monk asked again. "Our three sects have already arrived and are guarding outside the human sovereign palace. Once the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect and the Jade Maiden Palace arrive, we'll open the Human Sovereign Palace together. The three discussed matters at length, seemingly reaching a consensus. Carefree Monk then looked at Su Zimo and invited him, saying, "Benefactor, the three of us are preparing to subdue demonic beings, and will enter the Human Sovereign Palace once the timing is right. Would you like to come along? At such a critical moment, you're going to subdue demons?" Su Zimo found it hard to believe. The Human Sovereign Palace could open at any time. He could already enter the first trial, the Hall of Transmission. To be honest, our sects have ordered us to capture some demons and interrogate them about the conditions inside the Sage Palace, Zhang Meng explained. After so many years, we have no idea what the Human Sovereign Palace is like inside.
Su Yimo understood.
He possessed a map of the Human Sovereign Palace and knew far more than others. But a map was ultimately lifeless. For example, he had no knowledge of the Demon Suppression Tower being breached and demons escaping. "You just captured that Blood Lotus Seed. Couldn't you interrogate it?" Su Zimo asked. "That Blood Lotus Seed is too weak. It's only a common demon." Carefree Monk shook his head. "We must capture a demonic monarch." "What cultivation level is a demonic monarch?" Su Zimo asked. "Saint Sovereign," came the reply. "Then do you know where to find one?" Su Zimo continued. Hearing this, Zhang Meng stepped forward with a smile. "That happens to be the specialty of our Azure Cloud Ancient Sect." He waved his right hand, and a stream of azure energy gathered in his palm. Using demonic aura as a guide, heaven and earth as the board, let all demons reveal their paths. As he spoke, dozens of green lines appeared in the air. One end of each line connected to Zhang Meng's hand. The other ends drifted off into the distance. Each green line represents a demonic being, Zhang Meng explained. "See this thin one? That demon is weak. But this one here is as thick as an arm. That one must be the demonic monarch. In that case, I'll join you and see the excitement," Su Zimo replied. Su Zimo wasn't meddling out of idle curiosity. Something felt off to him, and he wanted to verify the doubts in his heart. After agreeing, they prepared to follow the line in search of the demonic monarch. Zhang Meng's method clearly had tracking capabilities. As for the others from the three sects, none followed along. The target was too conspicuous. They didn't want to scare the demonic monarch away. The four of them moved swiftly, traveling through the air. About half an hour later, they stopped above a river. "This is the place," Zhang Meng said with a frown. "The source of my tracking disappears here." "Search the surroundings," Carefree Monk reminded them. "A demonic monarch is different from ordinary demons. When they were suppressed, they were already extremely powerful. If any of us encounters it, we must immediately send a signal to inform the others. Do not engage alone." "Agreed," they nodded. The four split up, each heading in a different direction. Su Zimo was in no hurry. After the other three left, he took out his own compass, the Traceless Compass. Zhang Meng's tracking technique was far inferior to his. The Traceless Compass began to spin. The demonic aura that had dissipated gradually became clear once more. "Found it." Su Zimo's eyes narrowed. He immediately sped off in pursuit of the aura. His speed was pushed to the extreme, because he wanted to reach the demonic monarch before the other three did and ask the questions weighing on his mind. Before long, Su Zimo saw a village ahead. The aura of the demonic monarch vanished within the village. "Looks like this is the place," Su Zimo said softly as he walked toward it. The village was clearly old. At the entrance stood a stone tablet engraved with 3 characters, Hidden Spirit Village. Beside the entrance was an extremely ancient willow tree. Unfortunately, the tree seemed to have been cut clean through at the waist by some force, which was a pity. Su Zimo lifted his gaze toward the village. It was deathly quiet inside, with no sign of human activity. Just as he was about to enter, a group of people suddenly emerged from the village. "Outsiders stop," an old man said coldly. "Hidden Spirit Village does not welcome outsiders." The old man wore a green robe, with a group of young villagers standing behind him. All dead. So it really is in this village, Su Zimo said calmly as he looked at the village chief and the others. Young man, who are you saying is dead? The old man snapped, clearly displeased. Su Zimo looked at him. He casually waved his hand, and a terrifying blade aura burst forth. In an instant, all the villagers were cut cleanly in half at the waist. Blood splattered everywhere, but it was pitch black. Then, horrifyingly, their bodies healed and stood back up again. It was a chilling sight. Dead. So I'm already dead. The old man laughed madly. Spitting blood as he laughed, he lunged toward Su Zimo. Get lost, Su Zimo said lightly. His voice boomed like thunder, blasting everyone away. He strode into the village. At this point, everyone inside the village, whether women or children, had already become corpse puppets. Come out, Su Zimo said flatly. But aside from the hoarse roars of the corpse puppets, no one responded. So I really have to do it myself. Su Zimo shook his head. He raised a finger and unleashed the creation-devouring Godfinger. A deafening force crashed down. All the village houses collapsed. The ground split apart, revealing a bottomless pit. From deep within a cold underground cellar beneath the village, a figure was forced out by Su Zimo. This figure was wrapped in overwhelming baleful aura. The aura was so dense it was almost solid. The figure's hair hung loose and wild, completely obscuring its face. It roared as saintly might surged forth and charged at Su Zimo. A sage monarch, peak of Saint Sovereign. Su Zimo smiled. No doubt about it. This is the demonic monarch. He slapped downward with one hand, smashing the figure into the ground. The figure struggled violently, roaring in fury. Suddenly, its hair parted, revealing its face. It was a tiger's face. A tiger demon, Su Zimo said. Seeing the tiger demon charge again, Su Zimo no longer bothered to waste time. A mere sage monarch, and you dare challenge me. Terrifying, annihilating power erupted, suppressing the tiger demon so completely it could not move. The annihilating force condensed into a massive, sharp blade. It hovered in midair. Any movement from the tiger demon, and the blade would fall and pierce it, killing it instantly. The tiger demon did not dare move an inch. Human, you and I have no grudges, the tiger demon said. After escaping the demon suppression tower, I only wanted to find a place to hide. Compared to the blood lotus seed that had slaughtered wildly in Mist City, this tiger demon was far more restrained. It hid beneath this village, turning all the villagers into corpse puppets. It was almost impossible to detect. By all accounts, it was foolproof. Unfortunately, it had terrible luck. Su Zimo tracked it down with Traceless. No matter where it fled, escape was impossible. True, we have no grudges, Su Zimo nodded. I came only to ask you one question. What question? The tiger demon frowned. Are you planning to trick and slaughter everyone? Benefactor, you found the tiger demon? Carefree Monk stepped through the air and asked Su Zimo. Su Zimo nodded, then shook his head. I encountered it here, but it escaped. Everyone in this village has become corpse puppets. That demonic monarch is at least peak Saint Sovereign. What a pity! Carefree Monk frowned slightly. Zhang Meng and Wang Buyu soon arrived as well. Zhang Meng, track it again, Carefree Monk said. Zhang Meng nodded. Azure spirit energy coiled and surged in his palm. But this time, after swirling briefly, the energy vanished. Zhang Meng froze. The aura is gone. How could that be? Carefree Monk asked urgently. There's someone more skilled than me at tracking who helped conceal its aura, Zhang Meng replied. Or perhaps the demonic monarch itself knows how to hide its presence. You mean we can't track it anymore? Carefree Monk asked. Zhang Meng nodded helplessly. Damn it! Carefree Monk's expression darkened. Finally, he said, We don't have time anymore. The Demon Lord just sent word. The Human Sovereign Palace is about to open. The Jade Maiden Palace and the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect have both arrived. Then let's hurry back, Wang Buyu said. The four of them took to the air once more, heading toward the human sovereign palace. At this moment, the area around the human sovereign palace was already packed. At least several hundred people had gathered. Some belonged to the five major powers, some to first-rate sects, and even more were independent cultivators. They completely surrounded the human sovereign palace, making the area extremely noisy. When Su Zimo and the others arrived, the crowd was discussing how to enter the palace. Everyone, a middle-aged man stepped forward and shouted, "The five major powers will take the lead this time. We ask that everyone maintain order and refrain from fighting and killing at will." This man was Xiao Qianshan of the Heart Sword Ancient Sect. Someone sneered and said, "Elder Xiao, inheritances depend on strength. If there's no fighting, how do we seize the inheritance?" "That's right. Whoever is strongest deserves the inheritance." People in the crowd began to shout. Hearing this, Xiao Qianshan snorted heavily. More than a dozen of the instigators instantly turned pale. They looked as if they had suffered a heavy blow and spat out mouthfuls of blood. "Xiao Qianshan's heart sword has already reached the realm of killing without form," someone said in shock. The Heart Sword Ancient Sect's cultivation methods were inherently unusual. Their attacks were invisible. Everything existed only within the Heart Sword. "Listen to me," Xiao Qianshan said solemnly. "If this were another inheritance, mutual slaughter would be fine. But this is the inheritance of the human sovereign. The kind of person the human sovereign was, I believe everyone here understands. The human sovereign's inheritance seeks those with affinity. Killing and fighting for it is useless. Today, the five major powers are presiding here. Anyone who wishes to challenge our authority is welcome to try." After these words, no one dared speak further. The five major powers ruled over everything, after all. "Enter." As Xiao Qianshan spoke, he added, "The five major powers will go in first. If there is any danger, we can block it at the front. So all the opportunities will just be snatched up by you," a rogue cultivator complained. Everyone wanted to be the first to enter. As for danger, anyone who feared danger would not have come to the human sovereign palace in the first place. Rogue cultivators could not compare to major sections. They lived lives on the edge of a blade, surviving through intrigue and deceit. "Stop complaining," Xiao Qianshan snorted. "There are problems with the demon suppression tower inside the human sovereign palace. Who knows how many demonic creatures are still there. We're doing this for everyone's benefit, to reduce losses." As his words fell, the disciples of the five major powers began moving toward the human sovereign palace. Su Zimo followed Carefree Monk and the others. The only thing that made him wary was that the Luo clan, which had plotted against the human sovereign palace for many years, had not sent anyone. Moreover, Mortal Sovereign had not appeared since being severely injured. Su Zimo did not believe they would simply let this go. After plotting for so many years, how could they let the prize slip away now that it was within reach? He knew they were hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to scheme. This inheritance of the human sovereign palace was far more dangerous than it appeared on the surface. However, Su Zimo's goal was only the otherworldly demon stone. As for the other inheritances, he would let others fight over them. "Carefree Monk, who is this person? He doesn't look like a disciple of our five sects." A voice suddenly sounded nearby. Su Zimo knew they were talking about him. Turning his head, he saw a young man in black robes with a sinister appearance staring at him. Carefree Monk replied, "Black Crow Saint's son, this is my friend. Does it concern you?" His tone was stiff, clearly showing that his relationship with the Black Crow Saint's son was not good. "The five major powers are entering together. We shouldn't be bringing outsiders with unclear identities, should we?" The Black Crow Saint's son replied. He fixed his gaze on Su Zimo. "If you know what's good for you, step back and enter later." "And who is this thing?" Su Zimo asked calmly. "The Saint's son of the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect," Carefree Monk replied. Su Zimo turned to the Black Crow Saint's son and said just as bluntly, "If you don't want to die, don't block my path." "What the hell kind of attitude is that?" The Black Crow Saint's son flared up in anger. You're just a mere rogue cultivator, and you speak to me like this? In the great beyond, the 5 major powers were the rulers. He did not even need to ask about Suzimo's background. He could kill him outright. Anyone not from the 5 major powers was not worth fearing. The Black Crow Saint Sun let out an angry shout. His right hand transformed like a beast's claw, sharp and fierce, as it grabbed towards Suzimo. "Go away," Suzimo said softly. His voice thundered like a storm. The Black Crow Saint Sun felt an irresistible force crash into him, sending him slamming into the nearby wall. The walls of the human sovereign palace were exceptionally sturdy. The impact left him with a smashed head, blood and flesh mangled. Suzimo ignored him and walked straight into the human sovereign palace. Upon entering the hall of transmission once again, many people were already standing inside. Most of them were from the 5 major powers, and the voice of the sage echoed in the air. Suzimo did not rush forward. He watched as 50 people stepped up and sat at the desks in the center of the hall. The trial was conducted in groups of 50. Once all 50 were seated, the desks before them began to change. Eventually, a book appeared on each desk. The treatise of heaven, earth, and the myriad people. Those who comprehend the vast righteous force of heaven and earth within 10 minutes may enter the second trial. As soon as these words were spoken, an uproar broke out. This is far too harsh. Vast righteous force isn't something you can just comprehend casually. The human sovereign is clearly making things difficult for us. Others argued back. If vast righteous force were easy to comprehend, do you think the human sovereign's inheritance would be easy to obtain? The human sovereign is choosing a single true successor. Naturally, only the best of the best will qualify. Those who don't meet the requirements must be eliminated. That's right. In other words, the trials are strict, but the rewards are equally great. As 10 people began to show signs of comprehending vast righteous force, the hall gradually fell silent. Everyone stared intently at the group of 50. "I found you, brat." At that moment, the Black Crow Saint Sun walked over, his face filled with rage. He had nearly been beaten to death earlier. Naturally, he was not going to let Suzimo off. "Black Crow Saint Sun, if you're looking for trouble, I'll spar with you," Carefree Monk said. "We'll have plenty of time for that. This is between me and this brat." The Black Crow Saint Sun snorted. He turned to Suzimo and shouted, "Kid, how do you want to die? Why don't you suggest a way?" Suzimo smiled. "Fine. I'll sever your limbs and let you die slowly in agony." The Black Crow Saint Sun said coldly, "And I'll use you to warn the others of the consequences of offending me." As he spoke, he subtly signaled to an elderly man beside him. The Black Crow Saint Sun was not foolish. From their earlier clash, he already knew Suzimo was not simple, so he called over a sect elder. "Elder Celestial Brilliance, I'll leave it to you." The old man nodded darkly. "Don't worry, Saint Sun. I'll make him cry and beg for mercy." As he spoke, black energy coiled around the elder's right hand. Within the black mist, skulls seemed to be howling. "Boy, surrender now," the elder said as he waved his hand, sending waves of sinister wind that annihilated everything in their path. "Get lost," Suzimo said lightly. His right palm transformed into a blade, and he slashed forward. With a deafening boom, a heaven-piercing blade force erupted and cleaved toward the elder. At first, the elder paid it no mind and reached out to grab the blade force. But the instant the two made contact, his expression changed drastically. With another thunderous explosion, half of the elder's body was sliced cleanly apart. Blood sprayed everywhere. Everyone was stunned. Yet the elder did not die. Instead, he grew even more furious. "Die!" he roared as his remaining right hand lunged forward. The skull expanded dozens of times in size, opening its gaping maw to devour everything. Suzimo glanced at him, and the infinite samsara demon eye flashed. In an instant, both the skull and the elder were obliterated together, sent directly into reincarnation. "Elder Celestial Brilliance!" The Black Crow Saint Sun cried out in shock. Su Zimo began walking toward him step by step. The Black Crow Saint Sun's face turned deathly pale. "What are you doing? Don't come any closer." At first, he only had grievances with Carefree Monk. Seeing that Su Zimo was close to him, he wanted to establish his authority. He never expected to end up smashing a stone onto his own foot. "Don't be afraid. I'll cut off your limbs and let you die slowly in pain. See, you already picked your own way to die. I'm quite respectful after all," Su Zimo said with a smile. The Black Crow Saint Sun tried to flee, but Su Zimo's infinite samsara demon eye distorted the surrounding space. Behind the Black Crow Saint Sun, space twisted into a black vortex. Carrying terrifying, devouring force, it locked him firmly in place. The Black Crow Saint Sun's face was filled with terror. He struggled desperately and shouted for help. "Save me! Sect Master! Save me!" So noisy. A cold snort sounded nearby. The entrance is the Hall of Transmission Trial. No one is allowed to disrupt it by fighting. Otherwise, you become an enemy of the 5 major powers. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Mei Fengma, the sect master of the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect. At first glance, his words seemed reasonable. But upon closer thought, they were deeply insidious. When Elder Celestial Brilliance attacked earlier, he did not intervene. Now that the Black Crow Saint Sun was in danger, he suddenly stepped in. Worse still, he tried to drag all 5 major powers into the matter. However, no one present was foolish. On the Primordial Demon Gate side, Carefree Monk immediately stated his position. "We will not involve ourselves in this matter." Zhang Meng of the Azure Cloud Ancient Sect and Wang Buyu of the Heartsword Ancient Sect quickly followed, also declaring non-involvement. That left only the Jade Maiden Palace. The Jade Maiden Palace accepted only women, all of whom wore veils, adding an air of mystery. Their saintess, Lu Suer, spoke calmly, her voice cool and detached. "The affairs of the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect have nothing to do with us. Sect Master Mei, do not drag us into this." As her words fell, Mei Fengma's expression turned ugly. He looked at Su Zimo and said, "Even if the other 4 sects refuse to interfere, my Ghost Moon Ancient Sect cannot ignore this. This matter ends here. We will not pursue it further." "You can try pursuing it," Su Zimo smiled calmly. He stepped forward 1 step at a time. Shadow Tyrant was already drawn from its sheath. Mei Fengma's face darkened further. "I said this ends here. Did you not hear me?" He thrust his hand forward, and a colossal palm manifested in the air. The palm was shrouded in black mist as it slammed down toward Su Zimo. "Nope. Didn't hear you."
Su Zimo sung shadow tirang.
With a single strike, the giant palm was split apart. The blade force continued onward, crashing heavily into the Black Crow Saint Sun. A scream rang out. The Black Crow Saint Sun was instantly reduced to a pile of flesh and blood. "So you think having a little strength gives you the right to run wild?" Mei Fengmo roared, his eyes splitting with rage. Baleful energy surged wildly from his body. It condensed into a massive demonic giant that appeared within the Hall of Transmission. "It's the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect's baleful giant," someone exclaimed. The giant roared and charged at Su Zimo. The earth shook and the heavens trembled. The entire Hall of Transmission swayed violently. Behind Su Zimo, a heaven-shattering giant rose from the ground, towering like the sky itself, nearly as tall as the palace. With a single punch, the heaven-shattering giant smashed the baleful giant flying. "Destroy it," Su Zimo ordered. The heaven-shattering giant leapt atop the baleful giant and rained down punch after punch, quickly beating it into fragments. Mei Fengma's expression grew increasingly grim. "So this is all the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect's sect master amounts to," Su Zimo said with a smile.
Mei Fengmo snorted heavily.
The baleful laws around him erupted into chaos. "Everyone stay back. This baleful energy can make people lose their minds and turn them into puppets," someone shouted in warning. The crowd hurriedly retreated.
Mei Fengmo laughed coldly.
Dance of myriad demons. Within the surging baleful energy, countless creatures were born. There were walking corpses, demons, asuras, and living skeletons. All of them were beings Mei Fengma had slain and refined. Tear him apart, Mei Fengma commanded. All the dead creatures charged toward Su Zimo. Baleful energy churned violently. Deathly aura filled the air. They are already dead. I'll send you all to hell, Su Zimo said calmly. He raised his blade. 9 Hell's desolation. With this strike, all living beings were destined for hell. The yellow springs surged endlessly. Red spider lilies bloomed across the ground. Hell beckoned, and the god of death smiled coldly. The blade fell. It was as if an entire hell descended upon the world. Boom! Everyone felt countless visions flash before their eyes, followed by an explosion of black light. When they regained their senses, all the baleful creatures had vanished. Not only the demonic beings, but Mei Fengma himself had been swallowed and sent into hell. Su Zimo slowly sheathed his blade. At that moment, countless people held their breath, not daring to make a sound. The Ghost Moon ancient sect has been destroyed? Someone finally said in disbelief. It's over. The landscape of the great beyond is about to change. The Ghost Moon ancient sect's ancestors won't let this go. In my view, we won't get any share of the human sovereign palace inheritance. We should leave early and avoid getting dragged into this vortex. Many agreed. A number of people began to think of retreating. But just as they tried to leave, they discovered that the Hall of Transmission had completely sealed itself. The entrance they came through could no longer be opened. How can this be? Someone exclaimed. We're trapped inside. There's no way out. Carefree Monk looked at Su Zimo and reminded him, Benefactor, beware of the Ghost Moon ancient sect's twin sages. They are infinite Tao cultivators and the true foundation of the Ghost Moon ancient sect. Su Zimo nodded slightly. At that moment, the human sovereign's voice echoed from above. 50 participants. Not a single one has passed. In an instant, the power of the Hall of Transmission expelled the 50 participants. They looked at each other, faces full of regret. I was just one step away. I'm so unwilling. It was too difficult. I didn't even finish reading the book. Benefactor, shall we enter together and test ourselves? Carefree Monk asked.
Su Zimo nodded.
Count me in, Zhang Meng said with a smile. The first group had merely been a test. The second group consisted of the core disciples of the 5 major powers. Su Zimo stepped forward. He could clearly feel strange rule-based forces suppressing the area. The book before him condensed into form. Once again, 10 minutes to comprehend. But Su Zimo did not rush to open the book. He knew that comprehending vast righteous force did not depend on the contents of the book. It depended on the book itself. The book was formed entirely from vast righteous force. Reading it could help one comprehend that power, but it was far too slow. Su Zimo calmed his mind and immersed his spirit. He began to perceive it bit by bit. From subtlety, from nothing to something. After about 3 minutes, vast righteous force had already begun to form around his body. At a certain moment, the righteous force surged skyward and fully condensed. At the instant Su Zimo succeeded, several geniuses from the 5 major powers also completed their comprehension. This first trial was not truly difficult. It merely filtered out those hoping to slip through by chance. Outside is the Bridge of Pure Heart. Cross it and you may enter the Human Sovereign Academy. The Human Sovereign's voice rang out once more. Su Zimo took a look around. Among this group, many were geniuses from the 5 major powers. The number of people who passed was fairly high. Out of 50, more than 20 had succeeded. Soon after, the third group also entered. Let's go take a look at this so-called Bridge of Pure Heart, Su Zimo said. Carefree Monk nodded. A group of about 20 people left the Hall of Transmission and headed outward. Outside the hall, a palace could be vaguely seen in the distance. In front of that palace stood an extremely ancient iron chain bridge. From the outside, the Human Sovereign Palace did not look particularly vast. But once inside, everyone realized the space was folded. A single space could expand to more than 10 times its apparent size. From the outside, This was impossible to perceive unless one was already within it. Standing before the iron chain bridge and looking down, the depths below were unfathomable, like a bottomless abyss. From time to time, black tides surged below. It looked as if they were ready to devour anyone who dared cross the bridge. "Does anyone know what's down there?" Lu Suer of the Jade Maiden Palace asked first. "Everyone here is entering the human sovereign palace for the first time. Who would know?" Zhang Meng replied with a smile. "There's a stone tablet here," someone suddenly called out. Beside the bridge, a stone tablet lay toppled over, flat on the ground. Everyone quickly gathered around. "Let's see what it says." Someone read aloud, "Bridge of Pure Heart. The noble are open and at ease, the petty are forever anxious. Understand your true self and you may cross this bridge. Beneath the bridge dwell heart-devouring beasts. Those who fall are stripped heart corpses. Enter with caution. Even the human sovereign specifically warns us to be cautious." Someone inhaled sharply. They exclaimed in shock. "Unlike the first trial, this one looks like people will die." Failing the first trial merely meant being eliminated with no real loss. But falling from the bridge of pure heart meant certain death. Everyone fell silent. "Those who understand themselves may cross." "I'll try," someone said. It was Zhuo Ding from the Heart Sword Ancient Sect, also one of their geniuses. People murmured. The Heart Sword Ancient Sect cultivates the heart itself. The stronger the heart, the stronger the power. They have an advantage in this trial. No one moved rashly. All eyes were fixed on Zhuo Ding. As he stepped onto the bridge of pure heart, his body stiffened slightly. Then he slowly walked forward. "Look at his eyes. They're unfocused," someone warned. He must have fallen into an illusion. After walking about 10 meters, Zhuo Ding's expression grew increasingly strained, eventually twisting grotesquely. Finally, he burst into wild laughter. His hair was disheveled, and he looked completely deranged. "Junior sister Yun, listen to me. Senior brother did it for the sake of strength. Betraying you wasn't my true wish." "Ah!" Amid his hysterical screams, Zhuo Ding leapt straight off the bridge of pure heart. A black shadow flashed by at terrifying speed and swallowed him whole. It vanished instantly. That shadow was likely a heart-devouring beast, lurking below to devour those who fell. Seeing this, everyone hesitated. At their level of cultivation, who could claim they had never done evil or killed innocent people? "This trial is way too hard," someone complained. "It's not necessarily hard," Carefree Monk said calmly. "It depends on whether you can face your own heart. This monk will give it a try. Those who lack courage should withdraw now." "I'll try as well," Su Zimo said. He possessed a map of the human sovereign palace and already knew about this place. He also knew that the Bridge of Pure Heart was not truly difficult. Among the group, only a few chose to withdraw. The rest stepped onto the bridge together. Su Zimo walked at the very front. He was the most relaxed of them all. The moment he stepped onto the bridge, a wave of vast righteous force rushed toward him. Immediately after, his consciousness sank into a state of chaos. From the outside, he would appear to be walking forward unconsciously. Within that chaos, all the people Su Zimo had killed came back to life. They surged toward him, as if demanding his life. In his past battles, the aftermath of combat had claimed countless innocent lives. Those innocents now appeared, questioning him. There were times he had wiped out entire factions because of a single disciple or elder. The innocent members of those factions also reappeared to accuse him. Everything he had experienced in his life played before his eyes like scenes from a film. All those he had killed, whether wrongly or not, came walking toward him. Some spoke of benevolence and righteousness. Some wept with grief and resentment. Others were grotesque and terrifying. In an instant, countless voices exploded in his mind, making his ears ring. "Get lost," Su Zimo said coldly. "The dead have no need to ask why they died. I am not a judge, nor do I preside over good and evil. I act as I like. Why should I explain myself to anyone? Do you want me to take a trip to the netherworld and destroy your souls as well? He snorted, intending to disperse all the wandering spirits. Murderer, give me back my life, the spirits roared. They were not afraid at all. Instead, they became more ferocious and lunged at him. Suzimo did not dodge or evade. He allowed the spirits to rush at him, yet they could not harm him in the slightest, because everything before him was an illusion, or rather a more advanced illusion, one that directly targeted the heart. If you faltered even slightly, you would be completely submerged. Some believed the human sovereign created the bridge of pure heart to magnify the darkness within people, as well as the memories they dared not revisit. But they were wrong. Everyone has darkness in their heart. Did the human sovereign himself not have it as well? Where in this world is there a flawless saint? The bridge of pure heart exists only to make you face your own heart. When you can face everything openly, without fear or guilt, the bridge poses no difficulty at all. That was precisely Suzimo's state. Countless vengeful spirits rushed toward him, and he did not block them. They passed through his body as if he were transparent. From the outside, Suzimo had already reached the far end of the bridge. At that moment, the entire bridge began to shake. Black mist roared beneath it. Suddenly, a heart-devouring beast lunged towards Suzimo. With a thunderous boom, Suzimo's tightly shut eyes snapped open. He punched forward and smashed the heart-devouring beast into pieces. His gaze was completely clear. He was almost at the end of the bridge, and the heart-devouring beasts were growing anxious. Suzimo looked back. Out of the more than 10 who had entered, only 5 remained. All the others had been devoured by the beasts. It seems the hardest thing for people to face is still their own heart, Suzimo said with a sigh. Human, stay. A hoarse voice echoed from among the heart-devouring beasts. Countless beasts surged into action. You are violating the human sovereign's instructions, Suzimo said calmly. Those who do not fall from the bridge are not supposed to be attacked, are they? The human sovereign has been dead for a long time. What use are his words now? The hoarse voice snorted coldly. Suzimo shook his head and laughed softly. A bunch of small fry really think they matter. He waved his hand. Endless blade energy burst forth. Any heart-devouring beast that touched it was instantly reduced to minced flesh. Blood scattered everywhere. Suzimo had already reached the far end of the bridge. The human sovereign's voice sounded once again. Activate the bridge steel and enter the Human Sovereign Academy. Suzimo turned to look. At the end of the bridge stood another stone stele. The stele bore no inscription. Instead, there was a palm imprint engraved upon it. When Suzimo pressed his right hand against it, a loud boom rang out. The entire stele sank directly into the ground. It was as if some mechanism had been triggered. Beneath the bridge of pure heart, a destructive golden light flashed. Immediately after, the screams of countless heart-devouring beasts rang out. Human sovereign, you despicable bastard! The hoarse voice roared unwillingly. In the end, it was completely annihilated. Suzimo's gaze sharpened. This human sovereign was ruthless as well. It seemed he had never intended to spare these heart-devouring beasts. They were merely tools to guard the bridge of pure heart. Once their use was over, they were killed without hesitation. He looked around. Out of more than a dozen people, only 6 had passed this trial. Wang Buyu of the Azure Cloud Ancient Sect was dead. Only Carefree Monk and Zhang Meng remained, along with Lu Suer of the Jade Maiden Palace. There were also 2 others. One was a rogue cultivator with some reputation named Ouyang Yu. The other wore a black robe, completely concealed, his identity unknown. Including Suzimo, there were exactly 6 people. Wang Buyu's death shocked everyone. After all, he had been a genius of one of the 5 major powers. Carefree Monk let out a sigh. It seems Brother Wang had a hurdle in his heart that he could not overcome. I heard that Brother Wang's elder brother was once the sect's main focus of cultivation, Zhang Meng suddenly said. But one day his brother died. Perhaps that was Brother Wang's inner knot. Carefree Monk shook his head. Whether the two were truly connected, no one could say for certain. Let's head to the Human Sovereign Academy. From now on, we're competitors, Ouyang Yu said with a smile. Perhaps in a moment we'll be joining forces instead, Su Zimo suddenly said. Everyone froze for a moment. Su Zimo did not explain further. Instead, he walked toward the palace ahead. The palace gates were tightly shut. From the outside, it looked more like a cage. All four sides, even the top, were sealed and reinforced. There was only a single door, and that door was bound by countless iron chains. Above it hung a black plaque with 3 characters. Human Sovereign Academy. The 6 exchanged glances. I'll try, Carefree Monk said. He extended his right hand, demonic energy surging in his palm. He slapped forward with a loud boom. The blow landed heavily on the iron chains, yet they did not move at all. Such sturdy chains, Carefree Monk said. They're demon-locking chains. You come from a demonic sect. Of course you can't break them, said the mysterious black-robed figure, his voice deliberately low. I'll do it. Lu Suer of the Jade Maiden Palace stepped forward. She gently waved her jade-like hand through the air. A white torrent of energy erupted and slammed into the chains. The chains began to tremble. I'll help, Ouyang Yu shouted softly. Flames gathered in his right hand. In an instant, blazing fire surged forth. With a thunderous rumble, the iron chains snapped. The door itself was completely blasted open by the torrent of energy. The moment the door opened, everyone frowned. The Human Sovereign Academy was shrouded in black mist, and nothing inside could be seen clearly. This was supposed to be the place where sages taught. Yet there was no trace of vast righteous force, only an ominous aura. What's going on? Zhang Meng asked. Menger, save me. A voice suddenly came from within the black mist. Master! Zhang Meng froze. Without thinking further, he rushed straight into the palace. The others looked at one another. Let's go in and see. We've already come this far, Su Zimo said. They followed him inside. With a bang, the gates of the Human Sovereign Academy slammed shut. I have a bad feeling about this, Ouyang Yu said. At that moment, the black mist dispersed. Only then did everyone clearly see the scene inside the palace. They all sucked in a sharp breath. The Human Sovereign Academy was filled with countless demonic beings. There was a 9-headed demonic dragon, a sinister doll kicking human heads like balls, a ghost bride of extreme allure. There were dozens of such demons. Most terrifying of all was the middle-aged man seated at the highest position, like a king among demons. He looked human, with short hair and a scar on his face. His gaze was predatory, like that of a wild beast. As for the 5 major powers and the other rogue cultivators, all of them were imprisoned in cages along the sides. How can this be? Lu Suer looked toward the Jade Maiden Palace's master and fellow disciples inside one of the cages. Weren't you all in the Hall of Transmission? Suer, we were deceived, the palace master said despairingly. The Human Sovereign Palace has long been occupied by demons. What about the ancestors?
Liu Xuer asked.
This time, the 5 major powers had not come alone. Their infinite Tao ancestors had followed as well. The ancestors are outside the Sage Palace, the palace master replied. With no one to send word, even if we die here, no one will know. As these words fell, everyone's heart sank. All right, are you done catching up? The demonic king at the front of the hall interrupted them. He began, Allow me to introduce myself. I am Bone Demon. Bone Demon? Someone's face changed drastically. You're the mastermind behind the Bone Calamity? How could you still be alive? Weren't you already slain by the Human Sovereign back then? Once, the Great Beyond had suffered the Bone Calamity. It had nearly turned everyone into skeletons. The mastermind behind it all was Bone Demon. It was said he was a dead man who had crawled out of his grave one day, bringing disaster with him. Dead. Bone Demon shook his head and laughed. The Human Sovereign was indeed formidable, but killing me was still far beyond him. Believe me, though, if you don't obey, your deaths won't be far off. What exactly do you want? Someone asked. I want the entire great beyond under my control, Bone Demon said, clenching his right hand tightly. And now you have a choice. Help me rule the great beyond or die. You still won't give up, someone said. Even if you kill me, I won't help you commit evil. The moment those words were spoken, the man's head was crushed instantly. The rest fell into dead silence. After crushing that man's head, Bone Demon looked at the trembling crowd. He smiled faintly. In the great beyond, what we lack least is people. I believe there are plenty who would be willing to submit to me just to stay alive. So you are not that important. I also don't have time to waste on you. Bone Demon waved both hands. Evil energy gathered, and a bottle of pills appeared in his hand. The surface of these pills was pitch black. Inside them were red insects, as if they might burst out of their shells at any moment. Those willing to submit, eat one of these pills. Those unwilling, I will send to their deaths, Bone Demon said. Everyone's expressions changed drastically. Someone recognized the pills and said in despair, Ghost-devouring insects. You really are vicious. The moment these words were spoken, the entire hall was shaken. Even those who had never seen ghost-devouring insects had at least heard of their fearsome reputation. Once this insect entered the body, your life would no longer be your own. You would be unable to live, yet unable to die. The insect devoured all the power within your body, turning you into a cripple. Even your soul was its favorite food. And once infected by a ghost-devouring insect, even suicide was useless. The insect would devour both your yin soul and yang soul. Without your yang soul, you could not enter the netherworld, nor would you have any chance of reincarnation. It was an extremely vicious creature, one that defied heaven's principles. Yet Bone Demon remained calm. Of course, I'm not cutting off your path to survival entirely, he said. If you help me rule the great beyond, I will remove these ghost-devouring insects for you when that day comes. How about it? You think we'd believe you? Someone retorted. Bone Demon's gaze sharpened. If you don't believe me, then die. He punched forward, instantly blasting that person's head apart. Evil energy surged violently around him, power roaring outward. Remember this well, Bone Demon said coldly. My rule for survival is simple. Those who follow me prosper. Those who oppose me die. The surrounding demons roared one by one. Under this terrifying pressure, someone finally broke down. I'll do it. I'm willing to submit, the man shouted. Bone Demon tilted his head slightly. At his side, the seductive Bone Demon woman walked forward and handed the pill to that man. As she turned to leave, she happened to pass by Suzimo. She suddenly stopped, frowning slightly. She looked at Suzimo and asked, Who are you? Suzimo, just a nobody, Suzimo replied with a smile. Who are you? The seductive demon woman asked again. The same question, the same smile, the same answer. Suzimo, just a wandering cultivator. No, something's wrong with him. The seductive demon woman frowned. She reached out and grabbed Suzimo. Suzimo did not dodge or resist and was seized directly. The demon woman tore off his skin with brute force. Benefactor, Carefree Monk was about to intervene. But then he saw that after Suzimo's skin was peeled away, what remained inside was actually a demon. Master, save me. This human knows our plan, the demon shouted. This demon was none other than the demonic monarch that Suzimo had encountered in the village earlier. Didn't I tell you to go out and lure more humans here? Bone Demon frowned. How did things end up like this? The Demon King hurriedly explained. Not long after I went out, I was suppressed by this human. He forced our plan out of me. When we crossed the bridge of Pure Heart just now, he swapped bodies with me. You useless trash, Bone Demon shouted angrily. If he interrogated you, couldn't you have died before betraying us? The Demon King shrank back. He couldn't exactly say that he was afraid of death. Bone Demon snorted heavily. If you're afraid to die, then you may as well die. Bone Demon killed without hesitation, as if life meant nothing to him. With a single strike, the Demon King was completely annihilated. He didn't even have time to scream. If my plan is delayed because of a single human, he deserves to die 100 times over, Bone Demon roared. Search. Search the entire human sovereign palace. Find that human at all costs. Alive, I want to see him. Dead, I want his corpse. Yes. All the demons responded as one and sprang into action. At this moment, Su Zimo stood before a room. The entire room was pitch black. It gave off a solemn, iron-blooded aura. Su Zimo possessed a map of the human sovereign palace, so he knew that reaching the discipline hall did not require passing through the human sovereign academy. There were several paths within the palace, and he also knew that something was wrong with the human sovereign academy. From interrogating the demon earlier, and from the iron chains at the academy's entrance, Su Zimo had realized that the human sovereign academy was not as simple as it appeared. So he had sent in a prepared scapegoat. He himself took a side path and arrived at the discipline hall. The discipline hall was where the human sovereign punished his disciples. Even a sage could be angry. Teaching disciples did not mean they could never be punished or reprimanded. The doors of the discipline hall were shut. Su Zimo used all his strength to push them open. The moment the doors opened, a beam of golden light shot towards Su Zimo. Boom! Su Zimo dodged quickly. The ground where he had just stood was blasted into a deep pit. Who goes there? Su Zimo and the presence inside shouted at the same time. You're not a demon? The voice inside reacted instantly. Su Zimo looked inside. In the center of the discipline hall, on a meditation cushion, sat a man cross-legged. This man radiated immense pressure. Threads of rules surrounded him. It was clear that he had reached the infinite Tao realm. Who are you? Su Zimo asked. I've come seeking the human sovereign's inheritance. If you're not a demon, then come inside. The voice sighed. When Su Zimo walked closer to the man, he noticed something was wrong. Despite the man's imposing presence, there was an inescapable aura of death lingering around him. You're already dead?
Su Zimo Ekalim.
The death of an infinite Tao cultivator was no small matter. I have failed my master, the man sighed. I couldn't guard the human sovereign palace, and demons escaped. Master!
Su Zimo Ristek Instanti.
You are the human sovereign's disciple? You may call me King Skysage, the man nodded. When my master departed, he left behind his inheritance and ordered me to guard the human sovereign palace. Unfortunately, no successor ever appeared. Meanwhile, demons within the demon suppression tower began attacking the seals, trying to escape. I suppressed them with all my strength for thousands of years. But in the end, my power was far inferior to my master's, not even 1/10 of his. With no other choice, I sealed the entire human sovereign palace to prevent the demons from escaping. But alas, and to my hatred, the demons eventually broke through the seals, causing the human sovereign palace to reemerge. His face was filled with regret and unwillingness. After speaking, he suddenly asked in surprise, When you came in, you didn't encounter any demons? Su Zimo shook his head. The demons should all be inside the human sovereign academy, Su Zimo said. And because I have a map of the human sovereign palace, I was able to avoid them. A map? Upon hearing this, King Skysage's expression darkened. You were sent by my junior brother. No. I fought him once. We're mortal enemies, Su Zimo replied. He just ran fast. Otherwise, I would have killed him. Su Zimo knew that the junior brother King Skysage referred to was Mortal Sovereign. The real Mortal Sovereign had likely died long ago. The current Mortal Sovereign was probably an impostor, a former disciple of the human sovereign. As for Luo Mingyue's mother, she must have discovered Mortal Sovereign's secret long ago. That was why she had stolen the box early on. Inside that box was the jade token that controlled the entire human sovereign palace. That token was extremely important to the fake Mortal Sovereign. Unfortunately for him, Luo Mingyue's mother took her daughter and went into hiding, changing their names. He could not find them, Only after the mother died did Luo Mingyue return to retrieve the box. In the end, Su Zimo's appearance caused everything to go awry. The reason Mortal Sovereign did not move against Luo Mingyue earlier was because he feared the box would disappear forever, never to be found again. After all, only Luo Mingyue's mother knew where the box was hidden. Yet once Luo Mingyue obtained the box, before Mortal Sovereign could seize it, she encountered Su Zimo, and so the box fell into Su Zimo's hands. If you had killed my junior brother, it would have been revenge for me, King Sky Sage said. The demons breaking free had a lot to do with him. His teeth were clenched in hatred. You're here for my master's inheritance? He asked. More precisely, I'm here for the otherworldly demon stone, Su Zimo replied. As for the inheritance, I've already found a suitable person. There's an otherworldly demon hiding inside the demon stone. Yeah, I know, Su Zimo interrupted. I've met the human sovereign. You've met my master? King Sky Sage asked joyfully. More accurately, just a remnant soul, Su Zimo said. This demon stone is the key to forming my primordial spirit. I must obtain it. If you want the demon stone, I have no objections, King Sky Sage replied. But the human sovereign palace is now on the brink of destruction. I also need your help. If you want me to wipe out the demons, I really can't do that, Su Zimo said. You were a powerful infinite Tao cultivator and still fell. Someone like me, a newly ascended infinite Tao, probably won't be of much help.
No.
You have the palace jade token, don't you? King Sky Sage asked.
Su Zimo nodded.
You want me to take control of the human sovereign palace? Exactly. Although my master has passed on, he left behind boundless power within this palace, King Sky Sage explained. As long as you can control the human sovereign palace, destroying the demons will be effortless. At that point, everything here will belong to you. The jade token must be placed in a specific location to take effect, Su Zimo said. Let me guess. That location should be inside the Human Sovereign Academy. Hearing this, King Sky Sage nodded bitterly. Anyone could think of that, and naturally the demons would think of it as well. Such a massive threat would certainly be heavily guarded. Is there another way? Su Zimo asked. I can go all out and barely hold back Bone Demon, King Sky Sage replied. As for the other demons, you'll have to deal with them yourself. That's a bit difficult, Su Zimo said. Great rewards come with great risks, King Sky Sage replied. If you don't eliminate the demons, you won't get the otherworldly demon stone either. How many demons are there here? Su Zimo asked. My master spent his entire life suppressing demons, King Sky Sage said with a bitter smile. I don't actually know how many there are. If I had to estimate, at least several hundred. Some may have already died during the suppression. Several hundred, Su Zimo murmured, stroking his chin. He did not want to use the power of his god world. Once he did, there was a risk of exposure. If that happened, the heavenly Tao might disregard all rules just to kill him. Actually, we still have one more source of support, King Sky Sage suddenly said. What is it? In this discipline hall, there is a stone stele, King Sky Sage explained. It holds the imprints of many of my senior brothers. If we activate it, they can help you fight the demons. Then activate it, Su Zimo said. It's not that simple. The consciousness of my senior brothers is in deep slumber, King Sky Sage said. To awaken them, blood is required. A great deal of blood. Will demon blood work? Su Zimo asked. Of course. Demon blood is even better at stimulating their awakening, King Sky Sage replied. Then that works. Open the discipline hall. Let's welcome the demons, Su Zimo said. You've thought this through? King Sky Sage asked. Does it matter whether I have or not?
Su Zimo chukke.
Not like we got a choice. Hearing this, King Sky Sage nodded and said no more. He waved his hand. The doors of the discipline hall opened, and a beam of light shot skyward. It immediately drew the attention of all the demons. The stone stele deep within the discipline hall was also dragged out by Su Zimo and placed at the entrance. Su Zimo stood guard at the doorway, Shadow Tyrant in hand. "We've found him," a demon shouted not long after. Before it could finish speaking, it was met with the endless blade intent of Shadow Tyrant. Blood scattered and splashed onto the stone steel.
Su Zimo Stup Canli, Blay Lao.
Soon, a large group of demons rushed over. "Capture him. The master will reward us greatly," a demon roared. Su Zimo's gaze turned cold. Shadow Tyrant flashed. One slash meant one dead demon. Clean and decisive.
No mercy.
Before long, corpses were piled upon the steel. Their demonic blood was especially striking. As Su Zimo killed more and more demons, those arriving grew increasingly powerful. Finally, the seductive demon arrived. She was the strongest demon under Bone Demon. "Well now, looks like we have an interesting little fellow here," she laughed softly. "Little brother, are you interested in joining us demons? I can decide for you and give you a chance to live. The blood should be enough by now." Su Zimo ignored her and turned his gaze to the steel. Massive demonic energy surged. From within the steel, one powerful aura after another began to erupt. It seemed that the scholars of the Human Sovereign Palace were awakening. But at this moment, the entire discipline hall was completely surrounded by demons. Although Su Zimo had killed many, their numbers still exceeded his expectations. He looked up. In the sky above, a terrifying figure loomed, suppressing everything. That figure suppressed everything. A terrifying pressure blanketed the entire Human Sovereign Palace. Su Zimo knew that Bone Demon had arrived. As the king of all these demons, only he could radiate such overwhelming power. His gaze was calm. When it fell upon Su Zimo, it seemed capable of freezing all blood. The power within Su Zimo's body stalled. Strong, and not just ordinarily strong. Su Zimo could clearly feel it. This Bone Demon was likely only one step away from opening the three blossoms. Or perhaps he had already done so. Otherwise, an ordinary infinite Tao cultivator would never give Su Zimo such immense pressure. "Interesting. A mere Saint Sovereign dares to offend my authority," Bone Demon said. His gaze swept past Su Zimo. He then looked toward the discipline hall. "King Skysage, I know you're in there. Why don't you come out today and settle everything?" "That's exactly what I intend. Today, I will fulfill my master's will and eradicate you all." King Skysage snorted coldly. "The era of the human sovereign has already passed. You're still living in that ridiculous past," Bone Demon sneered. "This new era will sail forward on great ships, and I will be the helmsman of that era." He struck down with a palm. Behind Su Zimo, the stone steel shattered instantly. However, although the steel broke apart, the imprinted wills within it grew even more intense. One figure after another emerged from it. These were all disciples once taught by the human sovereign. In just a few breaths, 100 figures gathered. What's going on? How can there be such powerful demonic energy in the Sage Palace? As soon as these figures appeared, they sensed the abnormality. What time period is this now? "Junior brothers," King Skysage stepped out of the discipline hall. A tremendous aura surged skyward from him. He faced Bone Demon from afar. "It's senior brother Skysage." The imprints recognized him instantly. "The demons have emerged, and I have failed in my duty. I must rely on all of you, my brothers, to help me slay the demons," King Skysage shouted. "Slaying demons is our duty," the imprints replied one after another. "It's just a pity that we are only imprints here and cannot exert our full strength." High in the sky, Bone Demon burst into laughter. "Perfect. I'll wipe you all out at once and settle the grudge of being suppressed in the Human Sovereign Palace all these years." "Kill!" King Skysage roared. The entire discipline hall began to shake. He stepped into the air and charged toward Bone Demon. The surrounding demons also surged forward, clashing with the countless steel imprints. Su Zimo did not join their battle. He knew King Skysage was no match for Bone Demon and could at best stall him. King Skysage was already dead. When his power was exhausted, it would be the end for everyone. So Su Zimo prepared to sneak into the Human Sovereign Academy. He intended to take control of the entire Human Sovereign Palace. Where do you think you're going, little brother? A soft laugh suddenly sounded by his ear. Su Zimo stopped. He slowly turned his gaze. The seductive demon was standing beside him, watching him closely. Sister's earlier offer still stands. Why not join us otherworldly demons? She said. If you don't stop me now, once I control the Human Sovereign Palace, I can spare your life, Su Zimo replied. Looks like we can't reach an agreement. The seductive demon smiled coldly. Then you'll have to die. Her palms transformed into sharp claws, gleaming with cold light, dozens of centimeters long. These claws could easily tear through space itself. Su Zimo drew his blade. Her cultivation seemed to have just reached the infinite Tao realm, so he did not fear her. Claws and curved blade collided. Su Zimo's body was sent flying backward. Roughly observing, one would notice that the direction he was flung happened to be toward the Human Sovereign Academy. You really are a cunning man, the seductive demon said, her smile fading. Her eyes turned icy. Thorn Domain. In an instant, centered on the seductive demon, a unique domain formed. Su Zimo was enveloped within it. Countless thorns sprouted and coiled throughout the domain. She laughed softly. Little brother, sister's rules are poisonous. If you're pierced by my thorns, even a saint sovereign will die. Talk after you manage to pierce me, Su Zimo snorted. These thorns were indeed troublesome. They carried potent poison and were countless in number, making them hard to evade. However, they had a fatal weakness. All plants fear fire. Flame laws began to coil around Su Zimo's body. He waved his hand. Towering flames surged forth, turning everything into nothingness. Crackling sounds filled the air. In the blink of an eye, a sea of fire had formed. You're quite troublesome, little brother, the seductive demon sneered. She sliced open her own wrist. Countless drops of blood fell. The previously fragile thorns became eerie after absorbing the blood. Their speed increased drastically, and even their defensive power multiplied. Damn it, Su Zimo frowned. He could cut down these thorns, but their numbers kept multiplying. The more he cut, the more appeared. It was pointless to continue. Suddenly, his gaze locked onto the seductive demon. Though the thorn domain was powerful, its core was still her. As long as he disrupted her, he could escape. He had no intention of entangling himself with her. Time was limited. He snorted and charged straight at her. You're still far too weak, little brother, the seductive demon laughed. Is that so? Shadow Tyrant flashed in Su Zimo's hand. First strike. 9 Hells Desolation. When infinite hells manifested and all things fell into the 9 hells, the seductive demon finally grew serious. This move is strong, but you haven't truly reached infinite Tao. You can't hurt me, she said. Her hands formed seals rapidly. All the thorns responded, gathering into a shield before her. When Su Zimo's blade descended, cracks spread across the shield. Finally, it could no longer withstand the force and shattered. However, with the shield's obstruction, the blade energy weakened significantly and failed to injure the seductive demon. Where did he go? Her vision returned to normal as she looked up. Su Zimo had already vanished. Behind you, Su Zimo's voice sounded as his second strike, slay myriad immortals, descended. Rumble, rumble. At that moment, countless immortals descended. The heavenly court shattered, immortals fell, and the celestial gate collapsed. The seductive demon's face changed drastically. She could not avoid this strike, and after unleashing it, Su Zimo did not linger. He headed straight for the Human Sovereign Academy. Inside the Human Sovereign Academy, Bone Demon had not stationed demons here. All the demons had previously gone to the Discipline Hall. Yet when Su Zimo arrived, he was instead stopped by members of the 5 great powers. Heartsword Ancient Sect, Azure Cloud Ancient Sect, Jade Maiden Palace, and the Primordial Demon Gate. As for the Ghost Moon Ancient Sect, its sect master had already been destroyed by Su Zimo, so there were naturally not many people left. What do you all mean by this? Su Zimo frowned and asked. Carefree Monk gave a bitter smile. Benefactor, don't make things difficult for us. We are also forced into this. You've submitted to the demons? Su Zimo asked. We're only trying to survive. That ghost-devouring worm. Zhang Meng sighed. In that case, you are my enemies, Su Zimo said calmly as he slowly drew Shadow Tyrant. Bone Demon was truly scheming. He had actually arranged for people from the 5 great powers to guard the Human Sovereign Academy. In doing so, he could attend to both sides. He could eliminate the remaining forces of the Human Sovereign Palace and block Su Zimo at the same time, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Enough talk. Someone from the Primordial Demon Gate said coldly. Since he's an enemy, take his head. Maybe if we offer it to Lord Situ, he'll remove the ghost-devouring worms from our bodies. Hearing this, the crowd immediately grew fervent. This was freedom they were talking about. Dozens of people shouted and charged toward Su Zimo. A bunch of ants who haven't even reached the infinite Tao realm dare to stop me, Su Zimo snorted. Bone Demon had made a good plan. Unfortunately, he miscalculated one crucial point. Su Zimo, a Saint Sovereign, or rather a half-step infinite Tao, was practically invincible among those of the same realm. You're not infinite Tao either. What are you being arrogant about? Someone sneered. I kill you as easily as slaughtering a dog, Su Zimo replied. He took a single step forward. In the blink of an eye, he appeared before the speaker. Shadow Tyrant roared in his hand. With one clean slash, he severed the man's head. The scene made everyone shudder. That man had been a Saint Sovereign. That single strike had destroyed both his head and his soul. Everyone, attack together. Someone from the Heart Sword Ancient Sect shouted. The Heart Sword Ancient Sect cultivated the Heart Sword. Their attacks were extremely strange, invisible and unpredictable, striking directly at a person's heart. At this moment, the Heart Sword Ancient Sect disciples all unleashed their Heart Sword power, attempting to annihilate Su Zimo's internal organs. You're still far from enough, Su Zimo snorted. The shockwave shattered all the Heart Sword attacks. Kill! Shadow Tyrant vibrated, as if craving blood. Each swing of the blade sent another head flying. On the side of the Primordial Demon Gate, the demons revealed their true forms. Some resembled netherworld white tigers, some looked like one-horned azure dragons, and others were like blazing firehawk eagles. These demon beasts roared, summoning wind and rain as demonic gales swept forth, charging at Su Zimo. Get lost! Su Zimo roared again. The infinite Samsara demon eye twisted everything. Blood rained down from the sky. At last, he reached the entrance of the Human Sovereign Academy. Only Carefree Monk remained standing in his way. Behind him lay dozens of corpses. In the great beyond, as long as the infinite Tao ancestors of the 5 great powers did not act, Su Zimo was invincible. Benefactor! Carefree Monk clasped his hands in a Buddhist salute and sighed. Why must it come to this? Why must it come to this? Su Zimo asked in return. Please grant me a swift end. Carefree Monk lowered his head and said, with the ghost-devouring worm inside me, life is worse than death. If you're not afraid of death, why accept the ghost-devouring worm? Su Zimo asked. If I didn't, my master and my fellow disciples would all die. If it were you, would you take it? Carefree Monk asked back. I'd be the first to die, Su Zimo replied, then raised his palm. With one strike, Carefree Monk's head dropped. His body slowly collapsed to the ground. Su Zimo pushed open the gates of the Human Sovereign Academy. Inside, chains crisscrossed everywhere. More than a dozen people were bound within them. Among them, Su Zimo saw Lu Suer of the Jade Maiden Palace, along with some other independent cultivators. These people had not submitted to the demons. Bone Demon had originally planned to torture them slowly, but the upheaval at the discipline hall left him no time to deal with them. Save us! Someone weakly pleaded upon seeing Su Zimo. Among those chained up, some were already dead. Others still clung to life. Su Zimo first freed Lu Suer. He needed to go to the Jade Maiden Palace to search for the desolate tree. Perhaps Lu Suer would be the key. "Are you all right?" Su Zimo asked. Lu Suer's eyes brimmed with grief. Her body was covered in blood. "My master submitted." She looked toward the corpses outside the door. Among those killed by Su Zimo were members of the Jade Maiden Palace, including her master. "Everyone makes choices, and we must all bear the consequences," Su Zimo said. After that, he did not say anything more to Lu Suer. Instead, he went to search for the place to set the Jade Token. The layout of the Human Sovereign Academy was very special. It was the place where the Human Sovereign once taught. The Dao Hall of Transmission was for examinations. There were no trials left here, or rather, the trials had already been destroyed by the demons. Su Zimo walked forward. He arrived before a wall within the Human Sovereign Academy. Carved upon it was the image of the Human Sovereign. At that time, the Human Sovereign was not an old man, but in his middle years. He even looked somewhat handsome. He carried a scholarly air like a teacher. He wore a black robe. Though old, it was neat and clean. At the Human Sovereign's waist, on the left, hung a ruler. On the right, there was a cord. The Jade Token? Su Zimo immediately took it out. That cord looked like the place where the Jade Token was meant to hang. The box opened, and the Jade Token transformed into a beam of light and flew out. Before Su Zimo could grab it, the Jade Token had already flown to the Human Sovereign's waist. "Brat, you've ruined everything." Bone Demon's furious roar echoed. He had already slain King Skysage and was charging toward Su Zimo. A terrifying force suppressed Su Zimo on the spot. A massive hand reached out to seize him. Su Zimo considered whether to use the edict power of the God World to break free. But at that moment, within the Human Sovereign Academy, countless surges of astonishing power shot into the sky. Before Bone Demon could reach Su Zimo, he was blasted backward by an overwhelming force. Then, a figure stepped out from within the Human Sovereign Academy. Looking again, the carved image of the Human Sovereign on the wall had vanished. When that figure stepped out of the Human Sovereign Academy, the entire Human Sovereign Palace resonated in response. Immense power surged and roared. Bone Demon's face turned pale with terror. He was the first to charge at the Human Sovereign. "It's been so many years. You will never suppress me again," Bone Demon roared. He looked almost deranged. His fear of the Human Sovereign ran bone deep. At that moment, he threw a punch forward. With one punch, he attempted to shatter the Human Sovereign's phantom. At this moment, Bone Demon's aura surged dramatically, giving off the impression that he could slay gods and kill Buddhas alike. He roared in fury. After being suppressed for so many years, he had never been a match for the Human Sovereign. His great hatred had gone unavenged. Now that he had finally escaped, was he going to be destroyed once again by the Human Sovereign's hand? He was unwilling to accept this. That punch weighed tens of millions of tons, almost tearing apart the world itself. Time and space shattered completely. With a thunderous boom, the punch landed. The phantom of the Human Sovereign completely dissipated. The entire world seemed to fall into silence. A massive black hole appeared where the punch had struck. Yet there was no joy on Bone Demon's face. He frowned slightly, sensing that something was wrong. Why had the Human Sovereign not resisted at all? How could he be destroyed so easily with a single punch? "This isn't right." His expression suddenly changed. His gaze shifted to Su Zimo inside the Human Sovereign Academy. Su Zimo's body was radiating violent fluctuations as immense power surged and collapsed around him. That phantom had only been an illusion. The true power of the Human Sovereign had flowed into Su Zimo's body instead. "Damn it!" Bone Demon roared. He charged at Su Zimo once more. This punch carried all the strength he had left. "Kill, kill, kill." His eyes were bloodshot now. Anyone connected to the Human Sovereign had to die. Another deafening explosion followed. This time, when the punch landed and space shattered again, Su Zimo slowly raised his right hand. He directly caught Bone Demon's fist. In an instant, all the terrifying force was completely erased. Su Zimo showed no reaction at all. as if he had merely grasped an ant. You... Bone Demon was horrified. So this is the human sovereign's power. Truly strong. Unfortunately, it only lasts half an hour, Suzumo said calmly. But that's more than enough. Enough to kill you all. He clenched his hand and crushed Bone Demon's fist into pieces. Damn it! Damn it! Bone Demon roared in fury. The next moment, Suzumo kicked out. With a single kick, half of Bone Demon's body exploded apart. Bone Demon fell to the side, dark evil energy swirling as his wounds began to regenerate. At his level, killing him was difficult, but not impossible. Nothing in this world was truly immortal. It just took more effort. Suzumo slowly raised his head. The human sovereign did not kill you because he wished to educate the world, to give you a chance to repent, he said. But you did not understand. You did not cherish it. So be it. I will send you on your way. Suzumo waved his hand. A vast power surged forth. This was the human sovereign's vast righteous force. At this moment, that righteous force was like an endless ocean, with no visible end. It enveloped the entire human sovereign palace. The palace trembled as the righteous force transformed into meteors, falling from the sky under Suzumo's control. Billions of meteors descended. Almost none of the demons could evade them. Screams rang out one after another. Bone Demon naturally bore the brunt of the attack. More than half of the righteous force meteors were aimed directly at him. Damn it! Damn it! Bone Demon was trapped within. He was already nearing exhaustion. He smashed the righteous force apart with punch after punch, only to see it grow more and more abundant. His soul was being battered to the brink of shattering. Mortal Sovereign, if you don't act now, we'll perish together, Bone Demon roared. At these words, Suzumo frowned slightly. So you're finally here. He had always been wary of Mortal Sovereign. In terms of understanding the human sovereign palace, Mortal Sovereign far surpassed both Suzumo and Bone Demon. Bone Demon had been suppressed for a long time and only knew about the Demon Suppression Tower. Suzumo had merely obtained a map and newly gained control of the palace. But Mortal Sovereign had studied and lived here from beginning to end. Bone Demon, why so impatient? A voice said with a laugh. I need time to set some things up as well. Are you trying to watch me make a fool of myself? Bone Demon snapped back. Or were you planning to come out only after I was beaten to death? Brother, with a great enemy before us, let's talk about everything else later, Mortal Sovereign replied. He stepped through the air, his power surging violently. Dark demonic energy rolled in all directions. This Mortal Sovereign had also taken the path of demonic evil. That was why he had allied with the demons and helped them escape the suppression of the human sovereign palace. Now he intended to deal with Suzumo as well. The human sovereign would never have imagined that his ultimate betrayal would come from his own disciple. Young Master Su, we meet again, Mortal Sovereign said with a smile. So the stray dog from before has returned, Suzumo sneered. I'm here to take your life, Mortal Sovereign replied. You think that just because you wield that old man's power, you're invincible? We've been planning for hundreds of years. Today, I'll show you properly. Mortal Sovereign waved his hand. In an instant, a formation appeared beneath his feet. The formation rumbled to life. Its power was immense, and in a blink, it enveloped the entire human sovereign palace. The immortal slaying undying formation. Even Bone Demon was startled. Brother Luo, you truly are something else. This formation was meant for killing my enemies. I never thought I'd use it here, Mortal Sovereign said calmly. When Luo Mingyue's mother stole the jade token of the human sovereign palace, Mortal Sovereign already knew. One day, disaster would come of it. If someone obtained the jade token, they could potentially control the entire palace. So he had begun laying preparations here long ago. The immortal slaying undying formation was his greatest trump card. Back then, his foundation had been destroyed by the otherworldly demon stone, making it impossible for him to ever reach the infinite Tao realm. Yet he still wanted to kill his enemies. Thus, he devoted his entire life to formations. This immortal-slaying undying formation was his proudest creation. Now that it was activated, it carried the aura of annihilating immortals and destroying the world. Su Zimo felt pressure. Even with the human sovereign's power augmenting him, he could still feel it. He raised his head. The formation covered the entire human sovereign palace, and he was now trapped within it. He lifted his hand. Righteous force surged violently, slamming into the formation. With a thunderous rumble, the formation remained unmoved, swallowing all the righteous force instead. I have 4 world-destroying swords, enough to slay gods, demons, and Buddhas of all heavens. Mortal Sovereign declared solemnly. He controlled the entire formation. In an instant, 4 swords condensed above them. The 4 swords floated through the heavens like raging torrents, long rainbows piercing the sky. Strike! Mortal Sovereign commanded as he waved his hand. The first sword slashed down. With a deafening boom, the blade turned into a streak of light, thunder roaring within it. Boundless lightning power crashed down upon Su Zimo. The righteous force around Su Zimo surged and gathered in response. Sword force collided with righteous force, stalling for a brief moment. Then it was blasted away by a single punch from Su Zimo. So this is the power of the human sovereign? Looks like it's nothing special. Mortal Sovereign sneered. He waved his hand again. High above the heavens, the second sword descended in an eruption of force. It shattered the void, carrying an aura of death that struck fear into the heart. This second flying sword was stronger than the first. Within the immortal-slaying undying formation, each of the 4 swords was stronger than the last. This second sword was the sword of death. Vast, deathly energy rippled across the sky as it fell once more toward Su Zimo. Su Zimo swung his right hand. He forcibly met the sword head-on. At the same time, he let out a muffled groan, clearly straining himself. Mortal Sovereign saw hope in this. So the old man isn't invincible after all. Mortal Sovereign rejoiced. Third sword, fourth sword, strike for me. As his words fell, the third sword representing space and the fourth sword representing time descended simultaneously. Brother Luo, I'll lend you a hand, Bone Demon shouted excitedly. He stretched out his hand. A hellish evil claw slammed down. That claw seemed to carry countless vengeful souls, intent on annihilating everything it touched. Shrieks and wails echoed through the air. Meanwhile, the swords of space and time split apart, freezing all time and space. This strike was meant to kill Su Zimo outright. I'm not willing to accept this.
Su Zimo rao.
The righteous force around him gathered, forming the shape of a towering mountain. Then righteous force collided with sword force and the evil claw. In the end, everything exploded violently. Inside the Human Sovereign Academy, Su Zimo fell from the air, his body covered in blood. Sir, are you all right? Lu Suer, whom he had rescued earlier, hurried over and supported him in her arms. Run. Run as far away as you can, Su Zimo said with difficulty. How could I be someone who clings to life and fears death? Lu Suer said resolutely. While I still have some strength left, I can protect you as we leave here. Do you have somewhere to go? Su Zimo asked again. Back to our Jade Maiden Palace. Our ancestor is an infinite Tao powerhouse. They wouldn't dare to invade, Lu Suer replied firmly. That might not be appropriate? Su Zimo coughed blood. I've heard that your Jade Maiden Palace never allows men to enter. At a time like this, how could we cling to rigid rules? Besides, you're my life-saving benefactor, Lu Suer said as she helped Su Zimo up. Su Zimo asked again. But I've heard the island where the Jade Maiden Palace is located is always drifting and impossible to locate. Can you really find it? Of course. We have a special method for locating the island, Lu Suer said. Let's leave the Human Sovereign Palace first.
Su Zimo nodded.
With a wave of his hand, he tore open a rift in space and left together with Lu Suer. Before leaving, the corner of his mouth curled slightly. I really am a good actor. He then temporarily sealed the Human Sovereign Palace, which would stall Bone Demon and Mortal Sovereign for a while. After the violent explosions in the void subsided, the human sovereign palace was left in complete ruin. Many palaces had collapsed. Even important structures like the Hall of Transmission were falling apart. Where did he go? Bone Demon scanned the palace, frowning. He escaped. Mortal Sovereign struck the void heavily. Unfortunately, the human sovereign palace was sealed. Breaking through it would take time they could not afford. That brat is cunning. If he escapes, he'll become a major threat, Bone Demon said worriedly. Don't worry, Mortal Sovereign replied calmly. He was able to contend with us only because of the human sovereign's power. Now that power has dissipated. When we meet again, I'll kill him. The two nodded. They arrived at the ruins of the Human Sovereign Academy. Mortal Sovereign stomped his foot, and all the rubble of the collapsed academy instantly disintegrated. Where are the Inheritance Jade Token and the otherworldly Demon Stone? Mortal Sovereign frowned deeply. That damn kid took them, Bone Demon said. Why do I feel something's off? Mortal Sovereign frowned even harder. What's wrong? Bone Demon asked. I don't know. I just vaguely feel that something isn't right. Mortal Sovereign shook his head. What should we do next? Bone Demon asked again. Heh! Mortal Sovereign sneered. Brother finally trusts me now? Of course. You and I are on the same side now. We should join forces, Bone Demon replied. Let's first talk about the powerhouses of the Great Beyond. The 5 major forces are the most prominent. Besides them, there are also dangerous lands like Five Ghost Forest and Genesis Island, where infinite Dao powerhouses exist. Mortal Sovereign continued, but most infinite Dao cultivators don't involve themselves in worldly affairs. Only the 5 major forces are worth worrying about. If the infinite Dao powerhouses of the 5 major forces join hands, we'll be at a disadvantage. So the best course is to strike before they can react, defeating them one by one. That way we can rule the Great Beyond. Then what are we waiting for? Let's wipe them out one by one, Bone Demon said eagerly. For him, ruling the Great Beyond was an obsession. Back then, he died without achieving that goal. Now that he had the chance, he naturally wouldn't give it up. On the other side, Lu Suer led the heavily injured Su Zimo southward. Her hands formed seals rapidly. At first, the seal was only the size of a palm, but as it grew larger, it gradually seemed to envelop both of them. Is this a teleportation seal? Su Zimo asked in surprise. It's an origin transmission. I can't really explain it to you, Lu Suer said hesitantly. This was a secret of the Jade Maiden Palace. Naturally, she didn't want to reveal it. Su Zimo nodded and didn't press the issue. He only wanted to reach the Jade Maiden Palace and see whether the desolate tree was there. Finally, as the seal expanded further, it wrapped around Su Zimo and Lu Suer and turned into a streak of light that vanished into the void. Su Zimo could feel it. It was as if he were traveling between dimensions. No wonder no one could find the Jade Maiden Palace. This place was indeed extraordinary. After about a day and a night, Su Zimo's figure gradually descended as the speed slowed. He raised his head. At some point, he had arrived on a massive island. This island was completely different from the Great Beyond. As its name suggested, the Great Beyond was filled with desolation. But here, birds sang and flowers bloomed, with spring reigning all year round. Countless trees grew luxuriantly. Flowers of every kind bloomed in competition. It was a picture-perfect, secluded paradise. Interesting, isn't it? Lu Suer said. Our place is nothing like the outside world. Why is it different? Su Zimo asked. That's a secret, Lu Suer replied, still unwilling to say more. I'll take you to heal first. I'm fine. I can heal myself. Su Zimo quickly shook his head. He truly hadn't suffered any real injuries. Bone Demon and Mortal Sovereign had both overestimated him. Some immortal slaying undying formation. Mortal Sovereign was nothing more than a frog at the bottom of a well. The reason Su Zimo hadn't eliminated them was that he feared that, once the threat was gone, Lu Suer would flee on her own to the Jade Maiden Palace. Although this meant wasting the human sovereign's power, it didn't matter, because he had already obtained the otherworldly demon stone. Once he truly advanced into the infinite Tao realm, he wouldn't need anyone's help at all to kill Bone Demon and Mortal Sovereign. So for now, Su Zimo's top priority was to first enter the infinite Tao realm. After that, he would look for the desolate tree. As for the demon inside the otherworldly demon stone, he wasn't afraid in the slightest. In fact, this otherworldly demon might even be of great use to him. Lu Suer didn't say much. She had to report everything to the ancestor immediately. The sect master's betrayal and death, and the emergence of the evil beings, were a double blow to the Jade Maiden Palace. As the Holy Maiden of the Jade Maiden Palace, Lu Suer held considerable status. At this moment, she went alone to seek out the ancestor. She also arranged for a female disciple to find Su Zimo a place to stay. Since the Jade Maiden Palace was composed entirely of female disciples, Su Zimo was treated to quite a spectacle. Along the way, he was like a rare curiosity, drawing countless gazes. It was the first time a man had ever entered the Jade Maiden Palace. "What's your name?" Su Zimo asked the woman guiding him. "Wang Xiang," she replied. "Why doesn't your Jade Maiden Palace accept male disciples?" Su Zimo asked. "It's our grand ancestor's command. We simply obey," Wang Xiang replied. "Do you think your grand ancestor was hurt by a man, so she became this extreme?"
Su Zimo smiled.
"Don't speak recklessly about our grand ancestor," Wang Xiang said hurriedly. "She has her own reasons." "Then have you ever left the Jade Maiden Palace to see the outside world?" Su Zimo asked again. He decided to build a good relationship with her. That way, he could ask about some of the Jade Maiden Palace's secrets. He couldn't always be treated with suspicion. "My master said that unless there's a special reason, disciples of the Jade Maiden Palace aren't allowed to leave casually." Wang Xiang shook her head. This made Su Zimo feel even more puzzled. He sensed that the Jade Maiden Palace must be hiding some unspeakable secret. Otherwise, why would they be so strict with their disciples? It was almost like a form of disguised imprisonment. "The outside world is very exciting," Su Zimo said. This piqued Wang Xiang's curiosity. After all, a bird kept caged for too long will always yearn for the outside world. "Then tell me about it," Wang Xiang said with interest.
Su Zimo smiled.
He talked about the great beyond and also about the 9 heavens, the different regions of the 9 heavens, the diverse races, and some of his own experiences. It made Wang Xiang cover her mouth and laugh. Before long, the two arrived at the courtyard where Su Zimo would rest. The courtyard was located above a hot spring. The scale was fairly decent. Red bricks and green tiles, with peach trees planted in the courtyard. At this moment, peach blossoms were in full bloom, giving the place a unique atmosphere. "I'll send you off here, then," Wang Xiang said, still wanting more.
Su Zimo nodded.
Smiling, he said, "If you still want to hear stories, you can come find me tomorrow." "Really?" Wang Xiang said joyfully. After receiving Su Zimo's confirmation, she left happily. After entering the courtyard, Su Zimo first set up restrictions around it. This was to prevent anyone from barging in. Then he entered the God world. He took out the otherworldly demon stone. Within the God world, he was a god. No matter how strong this demon was, it couldn't possibly turn the tables. So from beginning to end, Su Zimo had never been worried. Outside, he might not have been completely confident. But in the God world, he could suppress any existence with a mere gesture. The otherworldly demon stone was indeed extraordinary. Once taken out, its surface looked like a meteorite, full of pits and craters. A very sinister aura radiated from it. However, there was a seal placed on its surface by the human sovereign. Otherwise, the demonic aura would have surged straight into the heavens. Su Zimo shattered the human sovereign's seal. The next moment, vast waves of demonic energy erupted violently. The power filled the entire sky. Loud laughter echoed throughout heaven and earth. "Old fool, you still couldn't control me in the end. My demonic army is invincible. One day we will rule this place." Listening to the somewhat crazed voice, Su Zimo said calmly. That's enough. Shut up. As soon as he spoke, the being inside the otherworldly demon stone froze for a moment. You're not of my race? Now I ask, you answer, Su Zimo said. Brat, who are you? The otherworldly demon snorted coldly. Su Zimo waved his hand. Heaven and earth changed instantly, and a bolt of supreme thunder descended from the sky. It struck the otherworldly demon stone with brutal force. Inside the stone, the otherworldly demon was also affected and screamed in agony. Perhaps other forms of power couldn't harm an otherworldly demon. But thunder was the ultimate yang force, specifically meant to restrain such evil beings. Brat, you deserve death. The otherworldly demon roared in fury, starting to issue threats. If I don't die, I'll tear you to pieces. In that case, then go die, Su Zimo said calmly. He raised his hand. Countless bolts of thunder exploded across the sky. Judging by the momentum, it looked enough to reduce the otherworldly demon to ashes. Don't act rashly. I submit. I submit, all right? The otherworldly demon shouted frantically. Could sense that Su Zimo truly dared to kill it. At this moment, it felt utterly aggrieved. It had been sealed by the human sovereign for countless years, and just when it finally saw the light of day, it ran into this situation again. For a noble member of the otherworldly demon race, when had it ever suffered such humiliation? Su Zimo didn't really care. What he wanted was the otherworldly demon stone. As for whether the otherworldly demon lived or died, it didn't matter. Something without value was just a waste to keep around. What do you want to know? The otherworldly demon asked. The human sovereign told me that you intended to invade the great beyond and the 9 heavens? Su Zimo asked. We only wanted to admire the scenery and travel to other worlds. Who knew the people here would be so barbaric, actually imprisoning us? The otherworldly demon replied. Still not being honest?
Su Zimo snorted coldly.
Heavenly thunder was about to descend again. The otherworldly demon immediately begged for mercy. But Su Zimo didn't stop, intending to teach it a harsh lesson. The thunder fell. After a round of miserable screams, the otherworldly demon could only say, At first, we really did want to attack the 9 heavens. But the strength of the 9 heavens far exceeded our expectations. So we planned to start with the great beyond. We never expected to be discovered by the heavenly Tao. It seems the heavenly Tao really hates you, Su Zimo said with interest. You've invaded quite a few other worlds, haven't you? The otherworldly demon chuckled. We didn't invade. We brought beauty to other worlds. Enough. Can you contact the otherworldly demons now? Su Zimo asked again. The otherworldly demon hesitated for a moment. Why? What are you trying to do? What else? To see whether your otherworldly demons are even qualified to cooperate with me, Su Zimo said. That answer left the otherworldly demon stunned for a long time. You dare to cooperate with us? After all, the reputation of the otherworldly demons was such that, in nearly every world, they played the role of villains. Forget cooperation. They had long since become like rats crossing the street, hated and hunted by all. This was the first time anyone had ever proposed working with them. Why cooperate with us? The otherworldly demon asked. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, Su Zimo replied. You want to invade the 9 heavens, but the heavenly Tao won't allow it. I want to break free from the heavenly Tao's restraints, which naturally makes me its enemy as well. If we join forces, there's much we can accomplish. Hearing Su Zimo's words, the otherworldly demon fell into thought. He had to admit the idea was extremely tempting. Still, he asked, Then what about you? What can you give to us otherworldly demons? I will soon head to the upper heavens of the 9 heavens. At that time, I will establish a massive power there and create enormous trouble for the heavenly Tao from within. Meanwhile, your otherworldly demons can seize the opportunity to attack the 9 heavens. Although Su Zimo said this, he knew very well in his heart. The otherworldly demons were merely tools for him to use. There was no chance he would ever share the 9 heavens with them. And as for the otherworldly demons, They were likely harboring the same intentions toward Suzimo. I agree, the otherworldly demon said. But to show sincerity, you must first release me. If sincerity is to be shown, it should be your otherworldly demons who show it first, not me. Suzimo waved his hand dismissively. A prisoner had no right to negotiate conditions with him. Moreover, how this so-called cooperation would work, and whether the otherworldly demons could be trusted, was another matter entirely. There was no way he would release this otherworldly demon. Now answer me. Can you contact the otherworldly demons? There are some methods, but after so many years, I don't know whether they'll still work, the otherworldly demon replied. They must work. You should understand, your life and death depend on this, Suzimo said. Also, I'm going to use this otherworldly demon stone. I'll find you another place to reside. My remnant soul lives within the otherworldly demon stone. That's the only reason I can barely survive. The otherworldly demon said hurriedly. If I leave the stone, I'll likely dissipate completely. Then before your soul dissipates, find a way to contact your otherworldly demons, Suzimo said calmly. He didn't bargain with the other party at all. With that, Suzimo waved his hand. He casually took out one of his treasures. He had many treasures, most of which he no longer needed. This one was a shield. Enter this shield and leave the otherworldly demon stone to me, Suzimo said. The otherworldly demon hesitated for a long time. In the end, he still gave in. The demonic energy surged, finally turning into a stream of black light that flowed into the shield. Suzimo then began inspecting the otherworldly demon stone. After confirming there were no issues, he sat cross-legged and began cultivating. Condensing the primordial spirit was an extremely important matter. It was also a path that had to be walked to reach the infinite Tao realm. The larger one's primordial spirit, the stronger and vaster the control over the power of edicts. That was why many people judged a person's strength by the size of their primordial spirit. Above Suzimo's head, the absolute annihilation Tao fruit began to manifest. Just as he was about to start condensing it, his expression suddenly changed. His figure flashed, and in the next moment, he appeared in a courtyard of the Jade Maiden Palace. Because just now, he had sensed that the restriction he set up had been broken. The moment he appeared, the door was pushed open with a palm. Lu Suer walked in with a troubled expression, and beside her was another woman. This woman looked somewhat older, but not elderly. Rather, she carried a mature charm. The aura around her was extremely powerful. Layers of icy rules enveloped her body. Leave the Jade Maiden Palace, the woman said as she looked at Suzimo, issuing a direct expulsion without further words. Young Master Su, this is our Jade Maiden Palace's ancestor, Lu Suer hurriedly explained. Then she turned back. Arctic ancestor, he truly is my lifesaver. He harbors no ill intent. Suer, have you forgotten the rules of our Jade Maiden Palace? The Arctic ancestor said calmly. I haven't, but I'm not a heartless or ungrateful person either. He saved me, naturally. I won't abandon him to die. Lu Suer replied urgently. The Arctic ancestor turned her head. Her gaze fixed tightly on Suzimo, as though she wanted to see straight through him. Suzimo felt the pressure. The icy edicts on her body seemed to freeze even his blood. He smiled slightly. Now that the great beyond is on the brink of disaster, why must you be so rigid? He said. The affairs of the great beyond cannot threaten my Jade Maiden Palace, the Arctic ancestor replied calmly. The Jade Maiden Palace was located on the Genesis Island. Even if the great beyond were destroyed, without special methods, no one could find the location of the Genesis Island. That was why she could afford to be so firm. As far as I know, the former palace master of the Jade Maiden Palace submitted to Bone Demon, Suzimo countered. Do you think she might have told them the method to locate the Jade Maiden Palace? At these words, the Arctic ancestor's expression changed slightly. This was precisely what she feared most. It was also the greatest fear of the entire Jade Maiden Palace. That was why the Jade Maiden Palace had strict rules. Disciples were not allowed to leave the palace at will, only for special matters. It was to prevent the method of leaving the palace from being spread. The Arctic ancestor's expression shifted back and forth. In the end, she snorted coldly. This is the Jade Maiden Palace's own affair. Stop being stubborn. This is a matter of life and death for the great beyond. Su Zimo said. What we need now is unity, not petty stubbornness. I'll recuperate here for a few days. You can think it over as well. Once my injuries are healed, if you're still unwilling, I'll leave. Hearing this, Lu Suer tugged lightly at the Arctic ancestor's sleeve, a pleading look in her eyes. The Arctic ancestor snorted coldly. In the end, she still left. She knew that the most urgent matter right now was not Su Zimo. It was the safety of the Jade Maiden Palace itself. She also blamed herself for poor judgment, choosing such a palace master, one who nearly led the Jade Maiden Palace to destruction. She decided to first contact the other four great forces. Don't take it to heart. Grand Ancestor is just... In the courtyard, Lu Suer tried to explain, but she couldn't find the words. It's fine. There are some things I understand. Su Zimo waved his hand. Don't worry about me. Once my injuries heal, I'll leave. As he spoke, he coughed heavily a few times.
Liu Xue looked worried.
After chatting for a while, Su Zimo said he needed to rest. By now, the sky was gradually darkening. Su Zimo prepared to secretly explore the entire Jade Maiden Palace at night. He knew there were definitely secrets here, but he didn't care about anything else. He only wanted to find the desolate tree. Night fell, darkness enveloping everything. The entire Genesis Island grew quiet and still. Su Zimo knew it clearly. The Arctic ancestor would definitely arrange for people to monitor him. But how could he be someone others could truly keep under watch? Within his perception, the positions of several nearby figures were instantly revealed. He extinguished the candlelight in the room, plunging everything into darkness. Then he tore open the space before him. In the next instant, he appeared in front of a palace within the Jade Maiden Palace. He checked his direction. He intended to go and take a look at the center of the island. The Jade Maiden Palace covered a vast area. Su Zimo explored it for an entire night, yet he found not a single clue. Moreover, he still could not determine why the Jade Maiden Palace was able to maintain spring all year round. This puzzled him greatly. Left with no choice, as dawn approached, he returned to his room. Lu Suer came to see him first. She spoke reassuring words, telling him to rest and recover here with peace of mind, and that the Arctic ancestor had already left to seek an alliance with the other four great forces. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Given how wary the Arctic ancestor was of him, it stood to reason that she would not leave so easily. Letting him stay behind like this seemed strange. Was she truly not worried that he harbored ulterior motives? Su Zimo felt that things were becoming increasingly complicated. As the Saintess, Lu Suer clearly would not tell him anything important. So Su Zimo could only turn his attention to Wang Xiang, the girl who had guided him the day before. Near noon, Wang Xiang indeed came to find him. Whether it was the outside world that fascinated her, or Su Zimo himself, even he was not sure. Young Master Su, hurry up and tell me. After you entered that burial ground, what happened next? She asked eagerly. Su Zimo was not annoyed at all. He spun a web of fabricated stories, telling them so vividly that Wang Xiang was left gasping in amazement. The outside world is really interesting, she sighed. Then her expression dimmed. It's a pity I'll never be able to go out. Xiang-er, there's no need to be so disheartened. I can take you out, Su Zimo said. He had already started affectionately calling her Xiang-er. For the sake of information, Su Zimo felt he was acting somewhat against his conscience. No, that would violate the palace rules. If it were discovered, not only would I be punished, I might even implicate you. Wang Xiang replied. That's true. But how could the scenery of the great beyond compare to your Jade Maiden Palace? Su Zimo said. Sometimes I even envy this place. Eternal spring, birdsong, flowers in bloom. No matter how beautiful the scenery is, wouldn't you grow tired of it after seeing it for so long? Wang Xiang said. But I am curious. How does the Jade Maiden Palace manage to stay in eternal spring? Su Zimo suddenly asked. Well, Wang Xiang hesitated. Xiang-er, there's no need to make things difficult. If you don't trust me, then you don't have to say anything, Su Zimo said with a bitter smile. Young Master Su, you misunderstand. It's not that I don't trust you. I actually don't know much myself, Wang Xiang hurriedly explained. I only heard senior sisters mention it. Our Jade Maiden Palace seems to be located at the center of the Great Beyond. There's a mysterious force that blocks the Edict of Desolation, so this place isn't affected. If you don't want to say it, then so be it. Why lie to me? Su Zimo shook his head and sighed. The entire Great Beyond is filled with desolation edicts. What kind of thing could possibly contend against them? It might be a tree, I think, but I can't be sure, Wang Xiang replied. Meh, forget it. Let's not talk about it. Su Zimo waved his hand. Anyway, the scenery here is pretty nice. How about the two of us go out for a walk? That sounds good, Wang Xiang nodded. Oh right. Does the Jade Maiden Palace have any forbidden areas? Places you're not allowed to go? I wouldn't want to wander into the wrong place and cause trouble, Su Zimo asked. You mustn't wander near the places where the ancestors live. But senior sisters guard those areas anyway, so even if you went, you'd be chased away. Wang Xiang laughed. Oh, and there's also our ancestral tomb. You absolutely can't go there. That's where the ancestors are buried.
Su Zimo nodded.
He carefully committed all of this to memory. He now had 80% confidence that the desolate tree was located within the Jade Maiden Palace. However, the people of the Jade Maiden Palace seemed to prefer calling this place the Genesis Island. Su Zimo decided that the first place he would investigate was the cemetery. To avoid arousing Wang Xiang's suspicion, he spent most of the day with her before finally seeing her off. During the daytime stroll, he memorized all the important locations of the Jade Maiden Palace. As dusk fell, he left the courtyard. The cemetery of the Jade Maiden Palace was extraordinarily luxurious. It was located at the very center of the palace grounds. It was a massive mausoleum complex. There were hundreds of tombstones here. Only a few dozen people were qualified to be buried within this cemetery. The mausoleums were built of glazed crystal and precious jewels. Surrounding them were birdsong, flowers, and towering ancient trees. Although this cemetery was a forbidden area, there was not a single guard in sight. This allowed Su Zimo to enter with ease. So much desolation energy. Su Zimo sensed the difference the moment he stepped inside. According to Wang Xiang, a special power within the Jade Maiden Palace isolated everything, allowing eternal spring and preventing the influence of desolation edicts. Yet here in the cemetery, the desolation edicts were extremely dense. Su Zimo felt that he had come to the right place. Despite the heavy desolation, vegetation still grew luxuriantly. He began examining the tombstones throughout the cemetery. Tomb of the 13th Patriarch, Ice Phoenix Ancestor. Tomb of the 27th Patriarch, Ascending Carp Immortal. Tomb of the 7th Patriarch, Thousand Seal Ancestor. Su Zimo examined them one by one. Finally, he stopped in front of a particular mausoleum. It read, Mausoleum of the First Patriarch, Evergreen Ancestor. This mausoleum was solemn and dignified. There wasn't a single weed around it, clearly showing that it was regularly tended. Most importantly, Su Zimo could sense that all the desolation edicts seemed to radiate outward from this very mausoleum. I'll go in and take a look, Su Zimo thought, then stepped inside. The moment he entered, he realized that the interior was far larger than he had imagined. Inside was actually a dense forest. The forest was lush and verdant, and he couldn't find the tomb at all. Just then, space suddenly rippled. A door appeared before his eyes. Why don't you come in and have a few drinks, young friend? A voice sounded. Su Zimo could not sense the other party's location, but the door stood right before him. Without hesitation, Su Zimo walked in. In the next instant, the world spun. His figure appeared at the center of the forest. Before him stood a tombstone and a small house. and in front of the house, inside a pavilion, sat a man. He held a wine jar in his hand. White hair cascaded down as he drank deeply, completely immersed. Suzimo looked at him, very strong. The power within the man was like a pool of stagnant water. It appeared calm now, but Suzimo knew that once those waters surged, they could overturn everything. "Who are you?" Suzimo asked. "You trespassed into a forbidden land and still ask who I am?" The man laughed. "Shouldn't you be the one to introduce yourself first, fellow Taoist?" The man put down the wine jar and wiped the corner of his mouth hard. That rough gesture was completely at odds with his ethereal presence. "Me? I'm just an ordinary guy," Suzimo said with a smile. "I admire the elegance of the Jade Maiden Palace's founding ancestor and came to pay my respects. Do you believe that yourself?" The man asked in return. "Fine. I came to look for the desolate tree." Suzimo chose to speak frankly. He knew this man must understand many things. Moreover, the mere fact that there was a man inside the Jade Maiden Palace was itself highly unusual. "So in the end, someone still knows about this thing," the man said after a long silence. He said nothing more for quite a while. Suzimo did not want to waste time and said, "I'm only borrowing the desolate tree. Believe me, once I'm done, I'll return it." He needed the desolate tree only to break a formation carved into it. Aside from that, it was of no real use to him. The man shook his head. Without the desolate tree, the Genesis Island would lose its meaning. This place was left behind by her. "I must guard it well. I can't let you take it." "Do you think you can really guard it?"
Suzimo smiled.
"Why not?" the man retorted. A terrifying power surged around him. Even without deliberate exertion, that power alone seemed capable of overturning the entire void. This was no longer merely an infinite Tao cultivator. It was more likely a being who had already opened the three blossoms. For such an existence to be present in the great beyond genuinely surprised Suzimo. It seemed the origins of the Jade Maiden Palace were far from simple. "If you want to take the desolate tree, you can try," the man said. Suzimo frowned slightly. He raised his hand. The creation-devouring Godfinger shot out, its overwhelming force striking toward the man. Yet the man remained calm, extending a single finger of his own. Without using any divine technique, he directly annihilated the creation-devouring Godfinger. "Godly techniques are exquisite, but my execution is effortless," the man said. "You are not my opponent. If I don't try, how would I know?"
Suzimo replied.
He drew out Shadow Tyrant. First form, 9 Hell's Desolation. Second form, slay myriad immortals. This was the first time he had chained the two forms together. At this moment, immortals were being slaughtered in the heavens, while hell rose from below. Such a vast and overwhelming phenomenon had already taken shape. "Not bad. This move already carries Tao resonance," the man praised. He waved his hand. From his pocket he took out a flute. Completely unperturbed, he began to play it. The moment the flute sounded, it seemed as though something changed, yet nothing appeared to change at all. Suzimo frowned slightly. When his two forms descended and neared the man, they suddenly vanished. No, it would be more accurate to say that the void twisted, swallowing all of his blade intent. "How can this be?" Suzimo asked. "Do you have any more?" "Let me see," the man said with interest. "I've only comprehended these two forms." Suzimo shook his head. "What a pity. If you had a complete set of blade techniques, you might have had a chance to break through the Tao." The man sighed. Then he continued. "You barged in here and disturbed my peace. I should have killed you, but I value talent. I'll spare you." "You might not be able to kill me," Suzimo said. Although he knew he was probably not this man's match, Suzimo was confident he could still escape if needed. "Even if I don't break the peace of this place, someone else will," Suzimo added. "What do you mean?" The man frowned. "Someone wants to rule the great beyond," Suzimo said. "If I'm not mistaken, this Genesis Island is the core of the great beyond." The man fell silent. Finally, he said, No matter who it is, they won't succeed. And what if you're not strong enough to stop them? Su Zimo asked. Then they'll have to step over my corpse, the man replied calmly. Clearly, as a being who had opened the three blossoms, and with infinite Tao cultivators being scarce in the great beyond, he did not truly take Su Zimo's warning to heart. Even if they step over your corpse, you still won't be able to protect this place, Su Zimo said. Why not cooperate with me? If I can't protect it myself, what use is cooperating with you? The man countered. I have a powerful force behind me, Su Zimo said. Much stronger than you. If they come, they would be enough to sweep through the entire great beyond. And we're only borrowing the desolate tree, not refusing to return it. We'll talk about that later. The man waved his hand dismissively. It was clear he didn't want to discuss this any further.
Su Zimo srut.
He still believed that Bone Demon and Mortal Sovereign were reliable. Those two definitely had the strength to rule the great beyond. And behind Mortal Sovereign, there seemed to be another force. Su Zimo had his suspicions but couldn't be sure. Seeing that the man was not welcoming him, Su Zimo did not force the issue. He left the mausoleum. He decided to first break through to the infinite Tao realm. After returning to the courtyard, he set up restrictions around the area, forbidding anyone from disturbing him. Then he entered the God world. He opened the otherworldly demon stone. At this moment, Su Zimo had adjusted himself to his optimal state. The instant the otherworldly demon stone was opened, boundless demonic power surged forth. Of course, mere raw power alone could not help Su Zimo condense his primordial spirit. This demonic power functioned more like a refinement. To command the power of rules, one needed an incomparably vast primordial spirit. Su Zimo began to comprehend. His thoughts drifted to hell, then to the heavens. He unleashed limitless imagination, determined to condense a primordial spirit vast enough. To the edge of the 9 heavens, to the edge of the great beyond. His thoughts continued to expand endlessly. Within his body, a special force began to take shape. At first, his primordial spirit was only about 10 meters tall. But as Su Zimo pursued enlightenment through boundless imagination, it grew larger and larger. According to the 9 heavens classification of primordial spirits, there were 3 levels: heavenly, earthly, and mortal. Below 100 meters was a mortal primordial spirit. Below 10,000 meters was an earthly primordial spirit. Above 1,000,000 meters was a heavenly primordial spirit. The primordial spirit had no true limit. In theory, the larger it was, the stronger it became. At this moment, Su Zimo's primordial spirit quickly expanded to 10,000 meters. This was a complete transformation. With a dull boom, Su Zimo felt his primordial spirit undergo an ultimate sublimation. After entering the heavenly primordial spirit stage, it still did not stop. Instead, it grew even faster. This primordial spirit embodied all of Su Zimo's experiences. From the primordial heartlands to the 9 heavens to the great beyond, and even other minor worlds. Finally, when his imagination was exhausted, Su Zimo felt that his primordial spirit had reached its limit. At that moment, the power of the otherworldly demon stone suddenly surged in. It opened a new door to the world for Su Zimo. Before him appeared a vast, boundless universe. Within this universe, even the 9 heavens were no more than a grain of sand. This universe was vast. Of course, as the scene before Su Zimo continued to evolve, he discovered that the power of the otherworldly demon stone was being consumed extremely quickly. It was disappearing at a terrifying rate. Su Zimo did not dare waste time. He rapidly comprehended the boundless space before him. What he sought to transcend was the 9 heavens. At this moment, his primordial spirit, which had already slowed in growth, began to expand rapidly once more. This otherworldly demon stone was indeed remarkable. Not only did it help Su Zimo refine his primordial spirit, it even reflected worlds beyond the heavens, enhancing his comprehension. This state continued on. No one knew how long passed. Su Zimo only felt his primordial spirit growing endlessly, its power becoming stronger and stronger. His Annihilation Dao fruit now shimmered with a different radiance. The Annihilation Dao began to transform, evolving into the Annihilation Edict. This was a Dao fruit that represented extreme offense. A Dao fruit that condensed countless attacks into one. At this moment, the primordial spirit was like a giant, its head supporting the heavens and its feet standing upon the 9 hells. The primordial spirit had grown to an immeasurable size. Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, his power was deep and boundless. Dao fruit and primordial spirit merged as one, with the power of edicts surging endlessly. So this is the infinite Dao realm, he murmured to himself. No, not quite yet. His gaze became restrained. The primordial spirit returned to his body, and the Dao fruit also re-entered him. The primal Daos within his body transformed into primordial edicts. Those edicts gathered into a vast sea, surging mightily toward the 11th Meridian Gate. This was the Meridian Gate that belonged to the infinite Dao realm. Only by opening it could one truly be considered a Dao fruit powerhouse. This Meridian Gate was extraordinarily solid. Su Zimo charged at it countless times, yet was forcefully blocked each time. However, his Annihilation Edict was terrifyingly powerful. Cracks had already formed in the Meridian Gate. Today, no one will stop me from entering the infinite Dao realm, he roared. At last, with overwhelming force like a landslide and tsunami, a deafening boom rang out. His body felt as though it were about to explode. His internal organs shattered, and his ears rang violently. The 11th Meridian Gate finally broke open. His body was completely renewed. The edicts connected with the 11th Meridian Gate and began circulating within it. All injuries recovered at a visible speed. The power of the infinite Dao realm could not be described in words. With a mere gesture, it carried the might of heaven and earth. To wield edicts with human strength meant already possessing the basic ability to contend with the heavens. Of course, Su Zimo's edicts were still weak. He had neither opened the 3 blossoms nor severed the 3 selves. Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes. Paimon and the others came forward to congratulate him. Su Zimo smiled, chatted with them for a while, and then left. When Su Zimo returned to the Jade Maiden Palace, heaven and earth seemed to sense something, and sudden anomalies appeared. He knew the trial of heaven and earth had arrived. Whenever a cultivator entered the infinite Dao realm, heaven and earth would present a choice. Submit to heaven and obtain a heavenly Dao fruit, or choose another Dao fruit and be destined to contend against heaven. Previously, Su Zimo had advanced within the God world. The heaven and earth there naturally said nothing. After all, he was the god of that place. Even heaven and earth were created by him, so there was nothing to fear. But after returning to the great beyond, the choice from heaven finally arrived. Su Zimo's gaze sharpened. He did not expect his first meeting with the heavenly Dao to come so soon. At this moment, his primordial spirit and Dao fruit left his body and stepped into the sky. The primordial spirit continued rising. Finally, as it approached the heavenly Dao, it suddenly stopped. The entire firmament was now filled with thunder and lightning. And not only that, amid the endless lightning, an eye appeared. It was like the eye of heavenly punishment. This eye gazed down upon everything. It seemed as though the entire world lay illuminated within it. In an instant, heaven and earth were frozen. This eye was far too powerful. With a single glance, its majesty was inviolable. It seemed to be the origin of all things. When you looked at it, submission rose uncontrollably from the depths of your heart. But Su Zimo's gaze remained cold. In his primordial spirit form, he looked straight at that eye. The two stared at each other. This made Su Zimo feel strange. It seemed as though the other side recognized him. Could it be related to the previous infernal lord? After a period of silence, the eye of heavenly punishment seemed to erupt in rage. It began gathering endless lightning, world-ending primordial thunder. Gray lightning condensed within the void, as though capable of annihilating gods and demons alike, destroying everything. At this moment, that lightning was unimaginably powerful. Su Zimo was momentarily stunned. By rights, heaven and earth should have given him a choice. Submit or follow another Tao fruit. Yet now, the eye of heavenly punishment stared at him and, without offering any choice at all, sought to destroy him outright. "How much do you hate me?" Su Zimo said with a bitter smile. At this moment, the heavenly Tao seemed utterly reckless. Lightning crashed down relentlessly, trying to erase Su Zimo completely. Su Zimo knew now was not the time to confront the heavenly Tao head-on. He was only at the infinite Tao realm. He had not yet reached the level of the true martial progenitor. To wage war against heaven was still far too distant. "But even if I die, I'll tear a layer of skin off you," Su Zimo said fiercely. His brows knit together. With a roar, he unleashed slay myriad immortals and 9 hells desolation at the same time. Immediately after, the 10 God scriptures were unleashed one after another. With their support, Su Zimo's primordial spirit expanded even further. Every punch and kick shattered space and destroyed time itself. They collided violently with the world-ending primordial thunder. Su Zimo appeared to be at a disadvantage. The lightning was terrifyingly strong, and pain racked his entire body. "Let's die together."
Su Zimo rao.
He rode the lightning straight upward. He charged directly toward the eye of heavenly punishment. That eye was the source of all lightning. The ferocity and power of the lightning within it far surpassed the lightning outside by many times. Boom! Half of Su Zimo's body was blown apart. Yet he continued charging upward, forcefully slamming his hand onto the eye of heavenly punishment. The eye of heavenly punishment seemed utterly humiliated. It had been touched by a mere human. Originally, the eye had no emotions at all, its expression completely indifferent, as if all living beings were nothing but ants. But now it clearly displayed emotion, becoming violently furious. Lightning raged wildly, as though killing Su Zimo was still not enough to vent its anger. Su Zimo bared his teeth in laughter. "One day, what I tear off won't just be an eye." With a roar, he forcibly ripped the eye of heavenly punishment from its place within heaven and earth. However, Su Zimo himself was also struck full of holes by heavenly punishment, already doomed to die. World-ending primordial thunder struck his body. His body could no longer regenerate. This was the terror of the heavenly Tao. The power of an infinite Tao cultivator was such that even a drop of blood could regenerate the body. Any injury could be instantly healed. But the power of the heavenly Tao prevented all recovery, ensuring certain death.